Well, that's quite salty. Although I think he went for over 80 in my division too. Yeah. Okay, look at that. All right. All right, so we are live. So let me kick over to our feed.
All right, and I will show my face in 1 second.
All right. All right, everybody. It is Thursday night. It is 9 o'clock. Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. And as you can see, I am not alone this week. I am not pulling my best Sully impersonation. We have my partner in crime. We have the dynamic duo back together. Colin is gracing us with his fantasy expertise. Welcome back, Colin. Although all we see is your beard, so let me fix you. That was my fault.
That's my bad.
So how you doing, brother? Welcome back.
I'm doing all right. Got a lot of stuff going on, but I'm back. That's what matters, and we're gonna talk about how this '96 team has gone because it's been interesting. There's been a lot of variation of prices.
It has been intense. Not for me
Yep.
this week because I literally have not got to bid it all this week. So whatever. I've been enjoying watching my division chat on GroupMe as I just sit here like a sad panda.
Fair enough. Yeah, I took over a team that after like the first 20, 25 players had already gone, so it kind of works in my favor because
Yeah, of
usually
course.
my strategy is get someone like Zeke and then wait. So instead of that, I just had to compensate, and I ended up getting. I have about like 9 or 10 starting level running backs on my squad right now. So
That's
I
pretty
did
sweet.
what I. Yeah.
You can't beat that. I mean, the struggle I had was, last year um, last year was my first year of auction. So the strategy I took was sit and wait, try to build a nice roster, which it isn't bad. I mean, the team I have isn't bad. I wound up getting, Jared Goff, Drew Brees, and I think Andy Dalton was kind of my third quarterback last year, which, not amazing, not terrible. Come trade deadline, I was not a playoff team. I knew it, so I flipped Drew Brees, got multiple firsts, or no, yeah, I think I got a first, a second, and Rashad Penny out of the deal. So I wound up flipping it, getting somebody young. I had Calvin Ridley, had some other young guys, wound up getting Anthony Miller in a deal, flipping, guys that were older. And I also have a ton of tight ends. So I have Eric Ebron, George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, I'm deep at tight end, which, I thought would pay dividends because I've had guys want to talk, but nobody wants to take the guys that I want to trade. Kittle's not really a guy I'm looking to move just yet. Where, Ebron's potentially and Jimmy Graham's for sure. I want to get rid of those two, but
Well, it all depends what you can actually get for Graham. That's one of those guys that, depending on what you can get for him, it might be worth it in a tight end premium. At this point, you might want to just sit with him and wait until Sternberger takes over the position.
it's probably going to be the case. Which is okay.
Yeah.
But this year in the '96 team, I went completely different. I said, I'm going into this thing and I'm getting my guy. Well, it just so happened that it was two guys, and my initial bid that I put in was probably way too high. I wound up getting, so let me see the exact price. So I put in and got Barkley for $295 and DeAndre Hopkins for $270. So I blew over half my budget on two guys. They're really good two guys, but I'm feeling buyer's remorse.
Right. Well, if it makes you feel any better, before I was in the division, because I took over a team, like I said, a little bit into the draft. Before I was there, apparently Saquon for us went for like 360. So if that helps you feel a little bit better, you did save like $70 there.
Yeah, I don't mind it so much, other than the fact that I love Division 8, but they're sniping everybody. Like, every time I bid on a guy, I've got guys messaging me saying, you're not going to get him. I was like, oh, crap. So I love it and I hate it at the same time.
Yeah, see, I told everyone was saying when I first got in there, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna end with so much money left," and I'm like, I don't think only a couple of you guys. I know Kevin Pons is in there. I'm like, Kevin knows how I play. Same with Rick. I'm like, you don't have to worry. I'm gonna clear this entire board of the next couple days, and sure enough, in about 3 days with 12-hour time clocks, I now have, I believe it's 31 players on my roster. Um, about to be 32 in about 15 minutes when I win Jamison Crowder for $10.
Oh, nice. And welcome,
So
Doug. I see Doug from my division in here. His response was, he bid like a madman. We saw him sinking like the Titanic. Man, my division's got all sorts of love for me going.
yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds like it.
Well, all I can say is, I only have 8 players on my roster. I like all 8 of my players, so I'll deal with it. As soon as I landed Kyle Rudolph for like $20, he wound up signing an extension. So it gives me the warm fuzzies that maybe he'll be a starter for a few more years in Minnesota in a decent offense. So, I just need to land some, 23
Exactly.
more players.
That's a lot. That's a big ask.
That's a
And
very
see,
big ask.
see this. What happened with me when I took over kind of works in the way that I like to play anyway. Like I
Mm,
said, I like to get one, top 5 running back. I like to get one of my top 15 receivers, preferably someone who's younger. So someone, um, I mean, I know Cooks isn't that young, but Cooks is the sort of body type that he should still produce for another 3-4 years.
he's only
That
25. I mean, you'll get some good
exactly,
years out of him still.
exactly, and that's the thing. He's one of those players that Brandon Cooks is usually a guy that I target. He was already gone before I got there. So the most money I've spent on a wide receiver is, what's the next closest thing to that as far as, potential production? I got DJ Moore, and then I paired him with Curtis Samuel
You
because
know me. You
both
make sure you got it.
exactly. I like both of the players for different reasons too. So I'm actually really happy with that. I'm also loving my tight end situation, where I showed up about a couple minutes before Noah Fant was supposed to be one for like $43. So I got him for, I think it was 60, either 50 or 60. I don't remember the
That's not
exact
bad.
total. Either way, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
especially because
same
Flacco
thing.
loves the tight end.
And so does Drew Lock,
Hmm.
which, funny enough, I own both of those quarterbacks. Spent spent a total of what was it, $35 for both of them.
That's good.
So yeah, yeah, right. That is. I waited until no one else really had that much money, and I only had like 100, like probably $90 left total. But when you already have about 27 roster spots full with only with $90 left, you're for the most part golden.
Right.
So that's been my strategy, and it's my usual guys that I'm definitely want to grab. I nominate, and then players that I have no interest in buying, I like to nominate and just let people go with them. So I threw a couple guys out there. I wanted JJ Arcega-Whiteside
Hmm.
because I love him. He went for, I think he's currently at like $32, where it's I can't really do that at this point. And I already have such a young team.
Yeah.
I built a young squad that they should be able to compete fairly decently this year. But I'm thinking this is a 2021 team. This is a lot of current running backs that I can move here and there, grab a couple extra draft picks because there's a lot of teams that are running back needy. And I'm looking at my list right now. I have about, 9 guys that are definitely flex worthy and one who is the handcuff to LaShawn McCoy.
Hmm.
So I'm all good to go for running back for a couple of years and wide receivers young, but like I said to you before we got on here, I got Debo. Debo wasn't going for too much. That was one of the guys I nominated him. I'm like, no, I'm putting $50 on Debo. See what I have to pay. It was only 35, so that was nice.
This is the first league I won't own Debo in, and I'm feeling sad already. I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't know that I didn't buy him. Couldn't
I
afford
I
him.
I got him everywhere. Really, there's only one league I can think of that I don't have him, and that's including all of my Devy leagues. I've had him on the Devy squads. So I've
And
been following that Debo train for a couple of years now.
well, and he's the kind of player that if I'm wrong, like it doesn't happen this often where I'm so wrong on a player.
Exactly.
I mean, there's times where I miss, but never to this degree. So I'm feeling good about my Debo shares. I mean, I'll wind up
Hmm.
getting him in this league at some point. I hope. Because after everything's said and done, I know that conversations will start happening. Because the funny thing is, when I went into my auctions last year, because last year was my first year of auction drafts. I'm still trying to, and I think this year I'm still trying to figure out the strategy that I like when it comes to doing the auction format. I thought this year I would go big and see if I could get guys to outbid me and really spend their money. It just so happens that backfired. I really didn't think I would get Saquon and DeAndre Hopkins. I really thought that they would go for higher because you kept seeing in all the chats that they were going for way higher. So I was like, oh, right, I'll bid these guys up. Well, it just so happens that, oh, crap. Well, they weren't going any higher than what I was going to pay. So, which I don't mind. I look at it this way. If I can't put a decent team together with the rest of it and have, flex bye-week type guys, well, then I start looking to sell. It's just the way it works. DeAndre would be the first one I look to sell because he's the older of the two young players, and they'll get me a haul. I mean, they'll get a good value.
Right. See, now this is if we were different, same division, we're the sort of people that could very easily work something out. I wouldn't go for Saquon, but like, could I be interested in Hopkins? Yeah, I mean, I have a decent wide receiving core. It's pretty young, but my top three, I got Tyler Boyd for $42. Yeah. I got let me see, I got Sammy Watkins for I think like 51. I didn't mean to get Sammy, but at that price, I'm not that upset. And then I got Robert Woods, who I don't love, but his value is phenomenal at $47 too.
Oh yeah, 47. You can't beat that. Well, and the interesting thing is, if you remember correctly, last year when I joined the team, Rick started doing those franchise leagues, and you and I were the first ones to hit deals in the franchise leagues.
Yeah,
I don't remember what they were. I think it was like a Chubb, Kerryon Johnson type deal.
Yes, it was. It was.
But that was, so I knew from the get-go that we'd be all right because I tend to find that there's a few guys in each league that I can trade really well with and make it happen.
And I will say it right now. I'm still on that. I'd rather have Kerryon over Chubb train. Like, I understand the arguments. I'd still rather have Kerryon. I still think he's a better overall player. I see it being easier for him to get those carries there too.
Oh, and catches too. I mean, you're hearing rumors now that they're aiming at 60 catches. Like, right. Dude, if that dude gets 60 catches and the rushes, whoo, he's going to be our RB1.
Right, and I was projecting him to probably get about 45 catches. So if they're aiming for 60 and they hit 50, that's not too far off from what I was thinking.
With the team they had, I was expecting 30. With the way that they've got, Theo Riddick still, I figured we would know if Theo Riddick gets bounced off the team, then there you go. But he's still there. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Where are those receptions going?
But Riddick hasn't been, actually that involved in the offense in a few years
now. Yeah,
right, exactly. And that's kind of the thing. A lot of people, like you said, people say that all the time about it, where it's like, oh, well, you have to watch out because of Theo Riddick. And it's like, he hasn't really done much in the offense. I mean, he gets a good amount of snap shares, but he's not actually targeted that often.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I looked at it. And I'm like, Kerryon did everything in Auburn. And if he can run it through an SEC offense as effectively as he did, I'm not really that, concerned. I understand that, there's the ankle injuries and stuff like that because that's with the majority of running backs have issues like that.
Right.
So if that's the reason, I mean, Chubb had a bad injury too. And that's kind of where I look at it. I kind of make that a, moot point between the two of them. I don't really, differentiate between their injuries because they both had different, I wouldn't say red flags, but they're both yellow flags.
They have concerns, yeah, for sure.
Right, exactly. There's the medical reports aren't insane, but there's definitely something to look at. And I still go back to the talent evaluation where I had before, everyone started valuing Kerryon highly. I had Kerryon as my 103, and I remember, for a couple years back now, where in the chat it was not exactly the popular opinion to have Kerryon Johnson. Forget about 103 even as a first round pick until after the NFL draft, and then all of a sudden he's rising up the board. It was the same. I had DJ Moore as my wide receiver 1 that year before anyone had really heard about him because no one was looking at wide receivers in Maryland for the most part. And then all of a sudden he goes first round where you heard like buzz right before the draft. Oh, there's a couple teams that like him in the top 50 picks. And then all of a sudden goes round 1, and now his value goes sky high compared to that too.
Right. Yeah, Maryland. The interesting thing is Maryland skill position players have really started improving. I mean, even we were talking about Kerryon. You've got Ty Johnson, who Detroit picked up. later
Yep.
in the draft. I could easily make a case, build the narrative that he could become their kind of backup in the
It's
next
possible. Yeah,
couple years. So they've
absolutely.
got some good skill position players that have come out in the last few years.
Yes. No, they it's been an improving program.
The interesting thing for me when it comes to when we're talking deals and we're talking auctions. I'm still trying to work through. Like I said a few minutes ago, I'm still trying to work my how do I build my roster the way I like it, and that's the thing that I'm struggling with. I'm like, okay, normally I have a balanced roster. I normally have maybe one or two kind of superstar caliber guys, and
Right.
then some good young talent, kind of mixed with some aging veterans. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to make that happen. Like in the Rotoheat Superflex that we did last year, the Dynasty we started last year, I feel like my team is balanced. The thing I don't know is in this one, I tried a different approach. How is that going to treat me? I feel
Yeah.
like I may get some buyer's remorse after I look back at this draft. I'm like,
Yeah, your bottom 10 might all I can say is that your bottom 10 are not going to be the same as my bottom 10.
well, my bottom 10 may not wind up being on my roster come week one. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows? I may be the guy hitting the waiver wire every week,
It's
purging.
possible. It's possible. And that's, that's part of the strategy that you got to like kind of bake into that is that how active are you going to plan on being on the waivers? Usually I'm really active, so I like to do, I like I said, I like to do two studs. Specifically one wide receiver in that mid tier that I really like, and one of the top five running backs. Who, honestly, for me, whoever it is of those top five backs that I have valued there, whoever goes cheapest is who I go for. I wait to see, because usually day one, when we do these auctions, they all go up. And, it's like the top 15 players. Usually those top five, six running backs are there. And I wait until I see exactly where the price differentiates. And if it's, if Zeke is going to go for $40 cheaper than Saquon, I'm taking Zeke all day. Now, if I can get Melvin Gordon for $130 cheaper, then I might not love Melvin Gordon. But if he's going to be like $150 player as opposed to Saquon going for, 260 plus, I'll probably jump on that Melvin Gordon, bandwagon and I'll grab Eckler later. I mean, Eckler's going for about $10 in our league right now.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's one of
I'm just looking at the in my division. Yeah, it
the.
looks like I paid $295 for Barkley, and Zeke went for $253. So that's
Yeah, exactly.
$42 difference. Kamara went for
Exactly.
$262. Christian McCaffrey $253. I mean, you know,
I would have been I would have been the Zeke guy. I would have had Zeke up to about like 265, 270 there.
yeah, because I mean, in my case, I know Barkley's not going to push the numbers he had last year. I mean, it's just
Right.
he can't handle that. But we got an interesting comment from Rick here that I asked him to add a little more to. So Rick says 12 teams and 96 teams have to be approached differently. Top heavy has been winning larger leagues. So I asked him, what does he mean by top heavy? So Rick says the winners of big leagues have not been balanced or have much depth. It's a small sample size, but I think you have to look at it similar to GPP and cash games in DFS.
Yeah. And I understand that. And it's usually I agree. I like, I try to do something fairly similar to that. And then I just save, I do the top heavy early. And then instead of getting a lot of those mid tier guys, I end up hitting on the players that I'm grabbing now that I really like Marquise Lee for $3. Stuff like that. Those are the guys that will make your roster as your, where we have, I believe it's a super flex and two regular flex,
Mm-hmm.
where could he be your, technically your fifth wide receiver a week? Absolutely. I'm fine with him starting him there for 1 or 2 weeks for
Yeah.
especially if I get him for $3. And I am the Marquise Lee, you know, the truther. The last year I was, standing up when Moncrief was there and everyone thought the Moncrief hype was going to start going crazy. Yeah. Where everyone was saying DD Westbrook was going to be something and, Keelan Cole started off the year so strong. I will probably die on that island that Marquise Lee is not only the most talented, but will be the most effective wide receiver there. I could be horribly wrong. but I'm still standing by that. I still think DJ Chark is going to do absolutely nothing. Um, and I just I don't see anything in DJ Chark. That was a guy that last year. It's kind of like how I look at Hardman this year. Like I didn't see a thing from him.
Well, DJ
That
Hardman, I will agree with you. We both have been bashing Hardman hot and heavy. Shark for me, the thing
running
that I
a
like
straight.
about Shark is his deep ability. So the guy, if he can get separation, which I don't know if he can do it in the next level, that's the big thing that scares me is can he get off the line and can he get off of the guy that's going to be in front of him? If he can, I think his hands aren't terrible, and I think he's got nice long speed. I said not terrible. I'm not saying he's great, but he could develop. Like he's got that wide receiver one body. If they could give him somebody to train him how to develop. Now that's a lot of ifs, and I'm not saying anything special about it. I'm just saying he's got some ability if they could develop it.
And that's the thing. I mean, in last year's draft class, there's a couple wide receivers like that. But where you might want DJ Chark at that point for it's the same value. I'd much rather have St. Brown. Give me Equinivius. I see a lot more of a much higher ceiling with him than with Chark. St. Brown is mainly his problems was the infighting in Green Bay is what it seems like from last year because the I know are you living in a poltergeist? What's going on?
The lights aren't flickering, but my camera is. I feel like there's a ghost in the machine.
I know, right? No, that ESB I like a lot, and he looks like he was caught in the crossfires of the whole Rodgers and McCarthy. Wow, McCarthy.
Rodgers will fight with anybody.
He will.
He
That's
around.
Part of his thing. And one of the things that ESB ended up losing some time was he ran a route that was one of the things that Rodgers audibled and just when he didn't listen to the play apparently, and McCarthy said do this and he did something else and I guess it was a 4th and 1 conversion if I remember correctly. He didn't run the route that McCarthy wanted. He was questioned why. Said it was Rodgers and then didn't get any serious playing time for the next couple weeks after that.
Yeah.
So his physical ability, there's no question about that. There's a reason that in Devy leagues he was considered like a top 6 wide receiver that season.
Mm-hmm.
And Poltergeist is back.
It is. It's so weird.
It's really strange.
I'm not moving that much. I mean, I moved my head to look at the chat, but
yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
You don't. Hey, we got to hit a question from Michael Swope. I saw that. I forgot to get it. He's in a new startup.
Okay.
And it's a 12-team, 30-round startup. Give him some names to look at. So he doesn't give us any more information league size, but who are some guys that you're excited about if you're doing a startup?
Well, one of the guys that I added in this league who I'm really excited about this year, especially how he ended the year, and I actually kind of think regardless of what quarterback he has, whether that is Cam Newton or Will Grier, because I do think that's possible. I'm really into Curtis Samuel this year. He was a player that I liked a lot coming out. There's a player that's going to be coming into the next year's draft that reminds me of him with a bigger body, which is Laviska Shenault.
Oh, yeah.
And I like Shenault a lot. And I'm sure we'll get to a Shenault talk in another night. But Curtis Samuel is the sort of guy that they can fit him anywhere they need him to be. They can use him similar to how the Giants used Odell in his rookie season. If Carolina knows, and that's a big thing, can Ron Rivera figure this out? But the last 4 weeks of the year, it looked like they were using him in the proper role. Just use him as a utility man. Have him go from the slot when you want to push DJ out to the X or the Y. Use some slot, put him out on the outside. He has the speed to get by anyone. Throw him as a scat back even in a play. If you have Samuel and McCaffrey sitting in the backfield, really what is a team going to do? Especially if Newton is actually healthy and can run. Now you have 3 options that when the ball is in their hands, they can all make things happen in open space.
True story.
And that's the thing that I think that I guess the best way to put it is I'm really hoping that Ron Rivera realizes after the past, it was the last 4 weeks of the season, Curtis Samuel really looked good, and that's part of what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for it. There's a couple guys that I like. Another startup name where I got him in this 96er,
Super,
and
super freaky.
I know it
All
is
right,
weird,
let's go up.
and I don't love the player, but depending on where he's going to go in this startup, Cortland Sutton would be another good name to grab. Um, if he starts slipping into that like seventh, eighth round sort of territory, I know his usual ADP, if I remember correctly, is around like mid to late sixth round. Usually, if Sutton's sitting there in like mid seven, early eight, if he slips, that's another guy that I'd personally like to grab. Even if you don't want to keep him, he has a pretty high trade value attached to his name, and
Right.
you can pretty easily.
So what are some guys that are late in a draft that you're interested in? So you mentioned Sutton a little bit, but I don't know that he's going to fall late into a draft. What are some? These are probably going to be guys that
Rounds what 24
30.
to the thing.
Yeah,
All right,
probably. So
okay.
I'm thinking guys like
Dawson Knox. We've talked about
like
Dawson
Dawson Knox.
Knox.
Well, and it depends on Michael. It depends on the type of league you're talking about. If you're just drafting kind of a standard or PPR type thing, I would look at running backs late. So maybe guys um, that aren't really sexy names that have the ability to get you some value. Because when you're thinking late round picks, these are guys that if they give you any value, you're going to try to flip them for future draft
Right,
picks and things like that.
exactly.
So Dawson Knox is a good name. If I was looking at that, I would even consider a guy like Ty Johnson. Like I said earlier, I could make the
Yeah,
narrative where he could move into a role where he's getting playing time this year, with injuries and all that. Um, you
yep.
know,
I know I already said it earlier, but he's been slipping. Throw Marquise Lee on that squad. I know he might not be the youth, but you can probably
he's
still get a
not.
decent second pick out of him, and
Well, I'm
that's
about to say he's not old either. He's only 26.
exactly. And he's not old, but he's one of those useful players that's been following in a lot of leagues. If you're
Oh, it's
in
a
a super
super
flex,
flex. It is a super
okay,
flex.
wonderful. If you are in a super flex,
Quarterback, quarterback,
uh,
quarterback.
the guy that I would target probably before round 24, regardless of whether you own Cam Newton or not, is probably Will Greer. I don't love the player. I know we've discussed this before. I don't think he's a fantastic quarterback, but that Carolina offense and the weapons that they have, that really fits his air raid style. Um, and again, this is all comes down to Ron Rivera.
He's 85 in injury. Rick just said he's talking about Marquise Lee. He said he's 85 in injury age.
Well, it's fine. Everyone else can think that until he ends up being about like wide receiver 28 this year. Not going to be great, but is he
I,
going to solid flex play? Yes, he will.
yeah, it's hard for me to build that narrative. I guess I have to see. So Nick Foles in camp so far has been vibing with Keelan Cole, and you hear a little chatter about D.D. Westbrook. Marquise Lee hasn't had the ability to get out there, so I need to
Right.
see the relationship grow because Nick Foles is a guy that he really targets his guys. Like he doesn't
He
spread the
does.
ball that much.
But he also has been known for targeting veterans, which the honestly, I guess, wow, it's really weird to say this. I think the veteran wide receiver of that core really is Marquise Lee. Even though he is 26 and he's younger, that is, the most experienced wide receiver of those, top three or four guys that's really in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been on the field yet, but I do have a strong feeling like he's the sort of guy I can see, 820 yards and seven touchdowns with, 95 yards rushing this year.
Right.
It's going to be a solid wide receiver three. I'm not trying to say that he's going to be showing the world off, but is he going to be a, solid play that you can get late in a draft? Absolutely.
Yep. And I like Paul Veldboom brought up. Sorry, I butchered your name. I'm terrible with that. Teddy Bridgewater. That's a good
Yeah.
super flex
And he's
stash.
not a good.
And I would also look at guys like Nick Mullins in San Francisco because Jimmy Garoppolo's injured. Definitely look at guys that you could build the narrative that he could get playing time.
The other guy that and I know we talked about him before too, Ryan Finley. Ryan Finley's another guy that he's not good. Okay, He's not.
There's nothing
But
about him that's
since,
good. I don't even like
but
his name. That's
Cincinnati,
how bad he is.
but Cincinnati is going to give him every opportunity to start, whether it's going to be a positive experience or a horrible one. He's going to get every opportunity humanly possible to prove that he will be as mediocre as Andy Dalton. And if he is as mediocre as Andy Dalton, he's going to be a starter for 6 years. That's going to be a thing.
It's terrible.
It's
Terrible.
horrible. I feel horrible for Bengals fans, but that's what will happen. And that he's going to end up, he'll do the same thing. Dalton had that one top 5 QB year, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, maybe the Cincinnati offense is changing. It's never going to change. Doesn't matter. I'm
Yeah,
confident that even with Zach Taylor in charge, that offense, there's no way Mike Brown himself is actually going to let them change that offense enough.
yeah. I've got to
We'll
see
see.
it to believe it because it's been so stale and stagnant for so long, and really only produced 2 or 3 valuable assets a year. I would be afraid. Um, I like where we're going. So Doug from Division 8, the best division in the 96 team league, brings up
We'll see.
Jacksonville again. What do you
Yep.
mean we'll see? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
See.
You got your division's the Ryan Finley of fantasy. It's all talk and no substance.
Well, you say that now, but I'm probably going to end up getting Ryan Finley on my roster.
You probably will. So he brings up Jacksonville again, and he brings up a name that I think we should have touched on, Chris Conley. He's one of those guys that he doesn't have an amazing athletic profile, but he's solid, and I could make a case. For me, it's always building the narrative. I could build the narrative that him and Foles get on the same page. But then to add on to what Doug says, Michael in the very next comment says, Nick is a product of system, and he's a diehard Eagles fan. He believes he's going to fall flat on his face in Jacksonville, and so will all the receivers. I also could make the narrative that whole team is hot garbage, except for Leonard Fournette, who I got for $100, who's my RB2. Just saying.
And right and Raquel Armstead. You should spend more money than you want to on him.
About Armstead. Colin.
Sorry,
I don't
hey,
think he's been
I'm trying to give advice to everyone, not just you.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
I'm just saying.
Well, that's how if you've been watching the last few weeks, I gave away my strategy last week. I'm like, oh yeah, just talking. I'm telling
Yep,
everybody everything.
exactly.
I don't care.
Why not? But that's one of the few situations in Jacksonville where there's a couple different, teams that I think you have to handcuff your running backs with. I think Buffalo's one of them with McCoy and Singletary. I think Fournette and Armstead are going to be one. There's a few others. Freeman and Ito. I think Ito is going to be a value this year. No matter, I think almost regardless of where it is that you take him, for where it is that he usually, is valued, I think he's going to be a value. And Conley, we've, I guess for me, I used to be a Conley guy. I used to be, hoping that, it was going to be the first, weapon that Alex Smith could really, really, become a thing. And it wasn't that the player himself kind of outshined Alex Smith. I thought Conley was going to be the guy in Kansas City for a while, and he hurt me. I really
You hurt me
did.
bad, Conley. You hurt
I
me
had him
bad.
everywhere. He's one of those guys that I had everywhere. And it's very possible that he could succeed in Jacksonville. I just really expect Foles to be an above average starter, not this stud, better than what Bortles gave them. So take that as you will. I'm not saying Foles is going to be great, but I think he'll be fantasy relevant. And I think it's either going to be, 2 of the 3 for me of Lee, Westbrook, and Cole are going to be relevant. I don't know those
I think
3.
Josh Oliver plays a role in that. I think he hurts whoever's kind of their slot guy.
I think next year that's going to be the case. I don't think this year we're going to see too much out of Josh Oliver. I agree.
Yeah.
Going forward, though, yes,
I think he's got the talent. The interesting thing for me is, and the reason I won't jump on the Foles' hot garbage bandwagon just yet is they brought his coordinator with him.
they did.
So he's got he's got some help that hopefully understands how he needs to play and how he needs to be or what he needs to be successful. So I won't say until I've seen a little bit more. I mean, right now, cautiously optimistic that he can be valuable because Jacksonville deserves that. Like, that's a team that they built a dominant defense. They've got talent on offense. I'm like, man, I would love to see Jacksonville kind of get over that hump and make it into the playoffs and make a run. They were able to do it with Bortles. I mean, Foles is better than Bortles. I mean, that has to be.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we'll see. I mean, at this point, we're gonna see. I don't see how it could actually go worse than 2018 with Bortles. So I mean,
Probably not.
I got Foles in the 96er for $26. It's
Yeah, I don't think he
one of
went
those
very
sort of
much.
guys that I go bargain hunting for quarterback. That's my auction strategy is that I won't spend more than $50 on any quarterback unless all of the prices are absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I got my Darnold for 40, Locke for 21, Foles for 26, Mariota 26. That's the exact, that's the little rainbow for Colin. That's my exact thing that I'm
It's
aiming
your
for
happy
every.
place.
Absolutely. That's my pot at the end of the rainbow. My pot of gold. That's it. That's where I'm looking for. Give me the cheap quarterbacks I don't think are going to lose their jobs.
Well, and the thing, and that was kind of what I went with last year, and thinking that, okay, if I can get some quarterbacks at a decent value, then if I don't have a really relevant team playoff time, then I sell. I mean, I sell some guys, get some
Right.
picks, focus on the future. I think this year I had either two or three firsts in the Rotoheat 12 team, and then next year I've got a couple firsts. I mean, I tried to add and make sure I have a few firsts every year if I couldn't be relevant, and
Fair
my
enough.
team's young and I got some picks. So,
Very nice.
so Paul says he thinks Oliver needs 12 to 18 months minimum. He's all talent, no tape. So that's kind of where we're at with it. I mean, I think the offensive coordinator can develop him because we've seen him do it before. I mean, he just came from Philly and really helped
Right.
Zach Ertz kind of take his game to the next level. So I think
Mhm.
I can't argue that Oliver needs time to develop. But I don't know that he'll have time to. He'll be learning on the job. I really feel like he'll probably get thrust into a role where he's on the field for a good amount of snaps, even early on
Yeah.
this year.
I agree that he's going to get a lot of snaps this year. I think it's going to be mainly working on his blocking, though. I think that's kind of what they're going to use him for this year, and I do expect that in 2020, I think he actually could end up being a top 15 tight end. He's a really good end of the draft stash, though, like you said.
Right. Yeah, him and Dawson Knox are kind of the sneaky guys in this draft where I'm like, if I can get
I
them, I'm getting them.
Give me Dawson. Give me Dawson. That's
Yeah.
my tight end three. I love him. I like him more than Irv. I really do. The more tape I've done on him, I'll take Knox over Irv.
Talent wise, I don't know. Situation, definitely. I mean, Dawson Knox, I can make the case that he's going to get significant playing time even this year because what they have is just not good, and his talent is better than the rest. Irv Smith is now going to be the Tyler Conklin this year, where he's kind of the backup tight end who gets a few snaps every game, but they're not relevant, and he's
Right.
now waiting for Kyle Rudolph to become less valuable. So Paul brings up Waring over in Houston. I
hmm
think he's got opportunity as well because they don't have any talent ahead of him. But I
Right.
don't know if that team can really make a tight end relevant. I mean, so far we've
Right.
not seen a lot of value from a Deshaun Watson tight end.
Right. And I mean, we saw Steven Anderson had a couple good games, and then he was waived.
And now he's in
Uh,
New England with Michael Roberts, who just got traded
yep.
from Detroit to New England.
Yep.
There's your
Hey,
tight end one, baby.
that's that. Get blocking tight ends are fine. Hey, I called that the whole Austin Safarian Jenkins to the Patriots was not going to be anything of note.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I don't. Michael Roberts has gotten better at blocking, but when they brought him in, it was more for his kind of his red zone acumen. Like the dude caught like 7 or 10 red zone touchdowns last year in college. So I don't. The interesting thing to me is to see what you guys do, what you're trotting out there, because tight end tends to become pretty relevant on your team. I don't know. I don't know if you guys could make one of these guys into a valuable tight end, or is it Steven Anderson, who I think has sneaky value as the receiving option there.
Here's the thing. I wish I could give you an opinion. As of right now, until I can see, even like week 1 and week 2 of the preseason, I want to see where it is that they go about it because if I remember correctly, they have 7 tight ends on their roster right now.
I got quite a few, that's for
Uh,
sure.
right, and that's the thing is that I have no clue what's going on with any of them. I Ben Watson is going to have a level of involvement in the offense.
In week
I don't
5.
right. I don't know, where it's going to be.
Well, he becomes the most relevant because he knows how to follow orders and he knows how to run the routes and but I don't know that the talent's there anymore. Like, yeah,
Well,
Tom Brady wants him here, but is he going to be able to make it there in a timely fashion?
not just that, but like this is something that I'm not sure if it traveled too far out of New England, but he put out a big tweet about when, with the whole Robert Kraft scenario,
Mm-hmm.
which really was anti-Kraft. So I'm not really sure what
He might have already burned the bridge.
was. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those, when he posted that was, everyone was like, all right, well that's a big shot fired, and then all of a sudden a month and a half later, he's coming back out of retirement to play a year in New England. So I have no idea. I feel like there's a good chance that he's going to be mainly doing a coaching role. And they just won't obviously say that he's going to be like a blocking tight end who does, much more of a, mentor sort of role. But I don't know if there's any tight ends in New England that are going to actually be fantasy relevant, which is kind of crazy to say. But last year we saw them really lean on a power run scheme,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of why I think that they went with Damian Harris because, Sony's hurt. Big surprise. And I'm still so angry they spent a first round pick on him. It's still that ate me alive that day. But I'm not going to get on a very long rant about that because I can go on a rant regardless of what it was that he produced last year. That you don't take a running back on a Super Bowl contending team in the first round, but or you shouldn't do it in general. And the problem with what they've done in New England is they didn't really groom anyone behind Gronk. They knew that Gronk wasn't planning on sticking around, and last year there were a couple guys that were decent. Like you said, Tyler Conklin is the sort of guy that I think if he had been sitting behind Gronk for a year, he could be an adequate tight end. But they decided not to go that route, which confused me at the time. It's the same thing when they didn't take a quarterback last year. It confused me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go through the draft this year, and I don't even remember the player's name. They took a tight end, I think, in the end of round 6. But I can't remember who it is right now. It's going to bother me.
I'll get it for him.
Thank you. I was going to say, I know I watched his tape after the draft because it wasn't someone that I had with a
No, he
top
wasn't
5.
on he wasn't on the radar.
Exactly. And it's kind of how when they took Jarrett Stidham, I went, oh, man, that's disappointing.
Andrew Beck.
Thank you, Andrew Beck. Right. And his tape didn't, scream exciting to me. I watched probably about 2 hours of it after the draft because I got excited. I was like, okay, so they drafted a tight end. There has to be something here. And I watched it and I was like, so they drafted basically brought in a cheap Tyler Kroft is really what he reminds me of. So I don't have any idea. I like Steven Anderson as a player, but I have no faith in general that any tight end is going to be actually fantasy relevant. I think they're going to be almost exclusively blockers this year.
So everybody's shooting shade at you because your team won the Super Bowl, and they're telling you to quit complaining because you guys won the big game. Must be hard being you guys.
Usually I would, but after last night with the Stanley Cup, I'm still salty. All right, this is the sort of thing. All right, this is a city.
You guys didn't look very good.
I was very upset. I was really upset.
Anybody that sees Colin, give him a hug. He needs it. Oh man, Paul's even had an insult to injury. Colin hates Stidham. Also, Colin trades me for Stidham. Thanks for everybody.
I did. I still don't like the player, and I still think that there's a really good chance that he actually ends up not being like the long-term starter. But if I'm wrong, I would rather have the guy that Bill is going to be molding. And that's kind of how I look at him. Is like all right, in that trade, that was a moving back in a Devy league in the Devy league draft where I had 2 through 4. So it was one of those. I traded him like 109 for 112 instead of him, and I was like, all right, there was a top 6, 7 players to me, and then after that, there's like 14 names that I value the same. So I was like, all right, go for it.
Yeah, and that's all right.
Right.
What I can tell you, though, is we have just been joined by the man, the myth, the Sullivan. Rob Sullivan, it's good to see you, brother. I'm glad you're joining us this evening. All right, so Paul next says, what makes it even better is Colin Colin going, USOB, I wanted Emery.
Yep.
What I'm hearing is he got in and sniped you.
No. It wasn't the same pick. That was a different pick that he got. No, I know exactly the pick. He took Trey Sanders with the pick that I gave him, which is fine. I didn't plan on doing that. And then I moved back on that pick a second time, and that's when he took Emery. I did not expect him to take Emery there. I didn't honestly think anyone was going to be taking Emery that early. I thought I was going to get my, top running back in the recruitment class a little bit later on, like 2 picks. I know.
That's for you, Sully. That's for you. Yeah, and we're getting some Glow Blues chats going up in here. We got some Blues fans in the chat.
No, they're not Blues fans. They're just anti-Boston fans. It's fine. That's how it is.
It's you. Yeah.
It's fine. I feed off of the hate. Okay, that's how I do. I feed off of this hate. That's it's wonderful.
You're starting to sound like Kenny Omega. Any minute here, I feel like you're going to be sweeping across the place.
I got no problem. I already got my villain club.
Look at you.
Absolutely.
He's all AEW in this place.
Oh, this is sadly, this is still Ring of Honor as of this taping.
Oh, is that one Ring of Honor?
Still Ring of Honor.
Oh, well, I won't tell anybody. All right, so what else we got here? Sully says he was sorry he was late. He was screwing up a Superflex tight end premium auction. Wonder which one. Probably the same one we're just messing around in.
Oh, probably. Probably a different division.
Yeah. So I guess Boston's going to have to start taking that moniker that Detroit's used for so long. I think, what was it, Detroit versus everybody? Now it's got to be Boston versus everybody?
Oh, but it's okay. That's been the mentality of the city for decades, so it works.
Sully says, poor Boston. It's been months since they won a championship.
I know, it has. It's hard.
I can't remember the last time Detroit's won anything of value. What, 2008?
See, the thing that still bothers me is that, in 2011, we could have had all 4 together. Could have had all 4. The Sox, that was the year, I believe, if I remember correctly, that's the Bobby Valentine year, where everything went, let's say, sideways. Because other than that, it's gonna get explicit when I talk about Bobby Valentine with the Red Sox, and that was another right, and that should have been another Super Bowl win. So it's okay. 2007 was a good year, near perfect season. Red Sox, Celtics, and Bruins almost. And then this year could have been another 3, but
Oh man, must be terrible.
It is. It hurts.
Terrible.
It hurts because I know this isn't going to happen another time in my life. I'm living through the only time when all 4 teams are relevant because that never happens. There were decades of Boston not getting anything productive other than the Celtics. And that's what it's been. It was the Bruins and Celtics, Sox were the Sox for before 2004. Patriots were the Steve Grogan years were ugly. And now
unfortunately, Detroit hasn't been that way in a while. So I'm like, man,
yeah,
I got nothing to look forward to. The Red Wings draft is coming up. That's all I can look forward to. Maybe Stevie Y can fix this for us.
I wish I could say promising things, but both I can say that there's really not much looking up for either the Pistons or the Lions right now.
Yeah, well, when it comes to, and to get us back onto the football tracks, I know this is a football show. As much as I would love to talk hockey and basketball, The Lions have some fantasy relevant guys. I was surprised to see Kenny Galladay not go for more. I was in my division. Carry-on went for a pretty good amount. There's some guys that I think have some value. A guy who hasn't been drafted yet or hasn't been auctioned yet is a guy I would point out to Michael Swope, Travis Fulgham. I'm hearing good reports out of Lions camp that they like what they're seeing. And they don't have a lot. I mean, they just signed Jermaine Kearse, so that should tell you everything you need to know about their wide receiver core.
Yeah, that should tell you everything you need to know. Right.
You'll have to go back and check Paul Veldblum's comment about Grogan, because that'll get us off topic again.
Yep, exactly. I'm sure it will.
but Fulgham, at least in Detroit, has the. I can make the narrative go that he could get playing time this year. I don't see a Darrell Bevel offense really supporting 3 wide receivers right now. I think 2 wide receivers, a tight end should be relevant, and then the running back. So, but Detroit has some fantasy relevant guys, and their defense. I mean, last year, if you look statistically, after week 8, their defense was in the top 10 to 15, I think, if I remember correctly, when it came to statistics. So if that offense can take even a remote step forward, they could really, I can build the case. I can drink the Kool-Aid enough to say they might be able to be relevant in December. I still don't think they're a playoff team yet, but
no.
I don't know if Stafford can do it.
Here's the question to the Lions fan. What percentage of faith do you have that Matthew Stafford is going to be able to elevate his game to a borderline playoff level?
The dude has the talent to do it. I don't know if he's got that it factor. Like, he's always, I mean, even when he was in college, he was a guy. Like, he had a lot of talent, but he never really had that thing that caused you to be great. Like, Georgia never was a great college team with him at under center. And Detroit's never been great. When they made it to the playoffs, it was Calvin elevating Stafford because he was catching everything. It was other players that you saw were making it at their point to take over the game. I don't know. My guess is probably less than 50%, but the problem, though, is I like the guy. Like, he's a likable guy. He's a quality dude. He's a good team player, but I don't know that he's got that it factor to really take a team over the top. The downfall, though, is they have a way to get out of him next off season. So in my mind, if Detroit doesn't make it to the playoffs this year, as soon as the season's over, I'm going to say, all right, time to cut him and let's go draft and start over. But then you're setting your team back even further because you've just paid for Trey Flowers. You've got an aging defense at that point. I mean, you don't really have the time to try to bring a quarterback up to speed. It's like, it's a cycle. I mean, Stafford needs to be the guy, and I don't know if he is.
I think the Stafford situation is going to completely come down to, it's not even going to be as to how well he performs. I think it's going to come down to draft position for them next year.
Jeff Robertson just hurt my soul. My faith in Stafford is about the same as my faith in Joey Harrington was back in the day. That wine-sipping, piano-playing, no-good quarterback should have never been taken at pick 3. Matt Millen was not a GM. That hurts my soul to hear that. I don't know if I can put Stafford in the same area as Harrington, but it's not a terrible physical comp because Joey Harrington had a strong arm. But man, he was not a leader. He wasn't really a team player guy either. I mean, he just kind of showed up to his job and left.
Stafford's doing a lot more in his career than Harrington ever did. That's what you can say that for sure, and
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
I mean, they even went out and got a head coach in Steve Mariucci that was a quarterback guy and still couldn't make Joey Harrington any good. So Paul says, even at Georgia, he had nothing. A true freshman, A.J. Green. He isn't great, but he also isn't the problem. I agree he's not the problem, but you really need, if you're going to go deep into the playoffs, you need to have a quarterback who's going to own the game. I mean, you need a guy who's going to take over the game and really, I mean, look at all the quarterbacks that have won recently. It's a quarterback guy. Well, but Nick Foles has that, though. He just needs to put it together outside of Philadelphia. I mean, look at in Philly. Like, he could run the offense. He was ballsy enough to take chances. I mean, Stafford doesn't – we used to see him be the gunslinger. When he made the playoffs, he was the gunslinger. Well, all of a sudden, it's like he's gun shy nowadays. I need Stafford to take chances, even if they're screw ups. Take chances.
See, I think that's a Jim Bob Cooter thing though. I think that's him, trying to really,
And
I
I love the
I
Cooter. I'll tell you, he was solid for a little while there, but then all of a
for
sudden
a little while, yeah,
that Cooter fell
not
off. I'll
a
tell you.
long term, but for a little bit, it worked for a little bit where it was, completely different from what they had been running, and then, it became really conservative. And I think that's,
Yeah.
for the most part, what happened with Stafford is you stopped seeing those because the entire offense became, uber conservative.
I like Rick's comment. Nick Foles has a better shot without Jeff Fisher in the picture. Learned a lot the
Very
past 2
true.
years too. But see, the problem though is I wish Jeff Fisher was as good a coach as he is a Twitter poster, like a Twitter person. Like if you follow his Twitter account, that dude's
I've seen,
hilarious.
yeah, I've seen some of it.
If only he could coach like he tweets.
Yeah, I know.
Paul, even since he makes the playoffs every second year with Dalton, you can't blame Stafford for the rest of the team being garbage.
It's
But
true.
see, see, the issue though is last year it was both. I think it was a coaching change, a culture change. The defense really came along in the second half of the season, but Stafford was just, I mean, no wide receivers, and it was falling off
Right.
the band. It was the wheels are falling off the cart. So
Yep.
this year, I need to see something quickly. Like I need to see them come out of the gate hot. But and I gotta say, Rick's comment. It only took Detroit 58 years between 100-yard rushing games. Yeah, it felt like 58 years. I mean, Reggie Bush hasn't played football in 58 years, and he was our
Yeah,
last
exactly.
100-yard rusher. So,
Oh,
Jeff, the worst thing to happen to Stafford was landing on the Lions. It's like being sentenced to mediocrity for your career. Dude, mediocrity with a crap ton of money, at least. I mean, that dude's gotten
yeah.
paid.
I mean, here's the thing. I
I'd
honestly
be
believe
mediocre for
part of
that.
why. See, I believe part of why the Lions aren't better is the same reason why there's a lot of teams that don't really ever improve. Is that they might have diehard fans, but the fans don't demand success.
Yeah.
Where there are markets that they demand success, which is kind of why everyone in Boston today, even after 2 championships, were angry because we demand success. It's why the Knicks and the Nets in the NBA are going to be doing something. That's why all the big markets make these big moves. That's why if any team were going to beat the Bruins, I'm okay with it being St. Louis or Chicago because I want it to be another big market team.
Yeah.
If it was Tampa, I would have been, if it was like Tampa, beat us again in the, Eastern Finals, I would have been livid. I'm not as angry. You know, I don't want any time that sort of thing happens where it's, if it's a decent metropolis, I'm okay with that. When it's all of a sudden, Tampa's the perfect example of that. It's like Tampa, Miami, another city that could not care any less about any of their teams. Oh, Miami won today. That bothers me. That bothers me to a core because I know there aren't that many actual diehard fans out there.
Right. Well, and the
Believe me.
Lions fans are diehard, but the struggle that I've always found, and even when I was a regular attender and I was in Detroit all the time and going to all the games, the fans accept mediocrity. Like we're
Right. That's what I'm saying.
anytime I would comment like now. So if I've been on Reddit for a few years, and I go on the Lions subreddit. People blast me if I say anything negative about Detroit, and it's like, dude, I'm real about it. I want Detroit to be successful. I've been a fan since the '80s. Like I fell in love with them when I was a young kid, and they've done nothing for me. Like I
Yeah.
wish I live in Fort Wayne. I wish that I could change my fandom over to the Colts. I hate paying to go to that stadium because it's crazy expensive, but at least they got a product worth watching. It's like at
Yeah.
least I know they're probably going to make the playoffs every few years.
And Lucas Oil Stadium's pretty nice. It's a nice place. It's really not bad.
No, it's not a bad stadium. It's just overpriced for what it is. Like,
Oh yeah.
I
Absolutely.
mean, I'm not one of those guys that will go every week and tailgate like that. That's where you get your money's worth if you're going to go there super early and tailgate. And like, I was like, I'm just getting too old for that business. I'm not going to go sit down there all day.
That's every Patriots fan. You're not allowed in there unless you've been sitting out near your car with one of those tiny, bring your own barbecues for less than 2 hours before a game.
See, the thing that I like about Lucas Oil, and they've done a good job of trying to make it an experience, is they have a lot of stuff going on, but most of the time when I go in there, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to go get something to drink, get something to eat, go sit down and watch the game. Like
That's fair.
especially nowadays, as I've done more in the writing and content creation, like the fluff stuff is great, but I'm focused on the action. Like I want to see player A. I want to see how they handle running routes or from the defensive side. Like I went to some games early last year because I wanted to see Darius Leonard. I wanted to see how he performed in that defense because I was interested. It's like
Fair enough.
it's tough now that I've switched over to the media mindset where I want to see players in action. So. Look at our boy Chris Resendez has joined the party tonight. Chris, what's up, brother? He was our Colin fill-in for a little while.
I know he was. He did a very nice job.
He was admirable. He even went with the short haircut. He just didn't grow the beard out quick enough.
Yeah, not everyone can. Not everyone can do this in 3 days.
Right.
This is only 3 days. This is just stress. That's all this was.
Is that what it was? I haven't shaved.
Absolutely. This is just 3 days of stress.
Yeah, no, I keep working. Chris says you're hot man. So it's a good looking fella. See, and that's where I'm considering going back to the beard because the wife's kind of teetering on whether she likes it or not, and I'm like, if you just give me the okay, I'll bring it back. I mean, we'll just
It doesn't have to be at my length because this goes a little crazy, but I like it that way. I don't want it well kept.
Well, that's what I had when I joined the team. I figured that was why Rick allowed me to hang around because my beard was magnificent, but now it's shortened, and I don't think Rick likes me as much anymore.
It still looks good. Just let it go. Get a nice 2.5 inches on there.
Rick, weird. Oh yeah. So Chris says he's proud of what him and his boy built in the new '96. So you must be in Chris's division.
I believe so. Yes.
And look at you guys making it rain. Glorious Rotoheat riders in that division.
There's been a couple of us that most of them had one or two of the top players, and now they're trying to outbid me. But I like I said, I went through there and I just ran a steamroller through there. I was like, all right, well, I need to make up for the fact that I
missed a couple days.
Yeah, $300, $400 more than anyone else. So let me see. I'll take him and him and him and him. It was like just $35 player after one after another. And I'm very happy with how it, as far as what I could make work with what had happened, I'm very happy with my current roster.
And I got to put a PSA out to any Division 8 guys watching the show. Stop bidding on Ridley and Westbrook. The only two guys that I can afford right now. And these schmoes are trying to snipe me again. Me and Division 8 are going to have a talk. We got some issues.
I'm curious. What is Ridley up to for you?
Right now he's only at $5. But I can't afford much more than that. I think I've only got like $40 left to spend. And then Westbrook's at $7. I'm like, y'all need to stop messing with my team.
I'm telling you see, you got a young team, but you're going to need some veterans. So,
I'm going to need more than 8 players is what I'm going to need. You
got to start looking towards Marquise Lee for $3. That's what you got to.
This ain't a Devi league. I can't be taking, Travis Etienne and some of these guys and stashing them. So these guys need to hold up.
Oh, if we were doing Devi, I'd be feeling great. I'd be it would be like how many spots can we have? Do we have 20 players? Thank you. I can very easily do this. Like I have a composite list of like the top 50 of each position, like per draft class or like per recruiting class. Like I can do that easy.
Oh, let's go. And I don't feel so bad because Michael's in the chat and he says he's only got $6 left. Michael, hopefully you've got more people on your roster than 8 because I'm at like $40 and I've got 8 guys on my roster. So I somehow have to fill the other 20-some players with $40. So I know I'm going to be dumpster diving.
Yeah, see, I'm hurting a little bit. I got $20 left or like $25, I think, and I have like 4 spots left. So I can't really bid up that much.
$5. This is probably more than I can spend on a player.
I wanted Josh Rosen, but I couldn't get Josh Rosen. He went for I went to my maximum bid, and I couldn't quite get him. It was like I think it was like $16 or something. I was like, oh man, that's
Oh.
disappointing. That's disappointing.
What's your team name in the 96, Colin? I got folks asking.
Oh, I am Hannibal's Cannibals.
Hannibal's Cannibals.
Yep, that's me.
I dig it.
Thank you.
So we don't have any questions. Do we have? Oh, I got 23 and he's. Oh crap! Poor Jeff Robertson. He's got $23 and he needs 21 players.
Wow.
That dude's dumpster diving worse than me. I at least can spend $2 on a player. He's
Oh,
not.
that's actually kind of impressive. I gotta say, I'm curious. Like, how top heavy did he go? Can
All
we?
right, so let's pull up Jeff's team. I'm gonna go find Jeff's team. He's not in my division, I don't think. So
I'm curious about this now.
yeah, we got to see what his roster looks like.
Needs 21 players and has $23. That's impressive.
We got to say, all right, Jeff. So we're calling out your team. I'm gonna find it and we're gonna look at it.
I'm just honestly, I guess it's like almost like morbidly curious about this.
You want to see how terribly bad it went for him? Eh?
I don't know. It probably didn't go badly.
He's probably top heavy for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he's top heavy. That's why I'm just curious as to what top names he went with. Was it like a Barkley, Kamara, Michael Thomas, and then Hopkins, and then just sit there and wait sort of situation? Because that's what I'm curious about.
I don't know what division he's in. So it'll take me a second to find him here.
All right. Well, I'll just keep on talking. So
yeah, you keep the paying customers entertained.
let's do it. Let's keep it going. So yeah, that's been what we've been discussing. I'm just
That's
curious.
long and the short of it.
That's it. All right. Well, that's all, folks.
Look at Colin.
Yeah.
He's not here for a long time. He's here for a good time, folks.
Absolutely, that's me.
Oh, here we go. All right. Oh, see, Jeff's got the best team name out there. He's got I Am Groot. So let's see. So he's got 11 players on his roster. His QBs are Josh Allen, Drew Brees. He's got Gurley, Darrell Henderson, Derrick Henry, and AP. Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Juju. Well, Juju would have raked him over the coals. Tyler Eifert and Kyle Rudolph. So he's got one solid starting tight end, and if Tyler Eifert could stay healthy, which we all know the answer to that, he's going to probably get one good week out of him. He's got three good wide receivers, though. I like those wide receivers. I like Adams, Diggs, and Juju.
And it's a solid quarterback situation, too.
So, yeah, so the team's not bad. I mean, Jeff's team's definitely...
It's really going to completely depend on what his $1 players become. That really is what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, that dollar menu is going to have to be extra good if he really wants to. I mean, because the nice thing is that he made sure he handcuffed Gurley. Maybe you got to also make sure you go get Malcolm Brown, because I could easily see him be, if Gurley's hurt still early, Malcolm Brown could quickly be the guy, at least for a few weeks, while Darrell Henderson's getting his feet under him. So you'll want to make sure you snag up Malcolm Brown.
Which should be a $1 player. That should be a $1.
It should be, but now that we've said it, he ain't getting him for a buck.
Yeah,
we done screwed that for you, Jeff. Sorry, brother.
Yeah, we might have just jinxed you. I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Yeah. So he's. I mean, Derrick Henry's a nice RB2. I think he should be okay. And Adrian Peterson will play this year. I mean,
right.
I don't know exactly what that looks like, because I'm a Geis fan. So hopefully Geis can bounce back healthy and Peterson doesn't become very playable. But that's only because I own Geis in a few places and I want him to be successful.
See, now I'm honestly curious, like, what the price was for Adrian Peterson. Now I'm curious.
All right, so let's see here.
Let's see if you can
see what we got.
I'm thinking if it's anything over like $4, I'm putting up the red flag there.
Transaction history. So let's see. I Am Groot won him for $5.
Okay, so that's around exactly what I was saying. All right.
Right there.
All right, so it's $1 more than I was saying.
Holy cow.
All right.
$15 by Jeremy Ogilvy. $11 for Eye of the Tiger in my division, Thomas Hurley. But I think he was getting him to back up. I think he was handcuffing. I think that's why he spent
Yeah, with
11.
guys.
And Joel Garcia got him for $3. So that four different teams. So that's
yeah.
fairly reasonable. And I think the two higher bids were to handcuff. Look at that! Right next to I Am Groot, we've got the Hulk. We got the big green Chris Resendez. Look at that sexy roster full of young and old talent.
Very nice.
No, it's not, his team. He doesn't really have many old guys except for Julio. Julio. All right, so he's got, and because he's in the chat, we'll go through his roster just for the fun of it, and see if we could poke some holes in his decision making. So his quarterbacks: Deshaun Watson, Andy Red Rocket Dalton, and Jameis Crab Lakes Winston. He's got Peyton Barber, Matt Breida, Deontay Foreman, Philip Lindsay, Jerick McKinnon, Joe Mixon. So you've definitely got an RB1 and then probably an RB2 and some depth. I mean, the interesting thing for me with Philip Lindsay is how does Vic Fangio feel about a small, undersized, speedy kind of scat back guy when he's got Royce Bowling Ball Freeman back there?
Right. Which, again, I don't love Royce Freeman. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity this year, which is why, he was one of those guys, he got put on the board, and I was like, you know what? I still have more money than anyone else here. I'll add him as my RB7.
Right. All right, so wide receiver, he's got Devin Funchess, who we all know that a lot of us in this writer's room like. He's got Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry, and Cortland Sutton. And then at tight end, he's got Mark Andrews, who I love, and Vance McDonald, who is solid. I mean, he's not spectacular, but he's definitely solid. So it's a fairly well-rounded team.
Yeah, it is. That is a fairly well-rounded team. I don't agree with the going and getting Deshaun, but
he probably paid for him. Chris, how much did you spend on Deshaun? I'm not even going to look. I'm just going to have you tell me.
Because I'm sure it's got to be like 150 plus, probably.
Yeah, I'm guessing. So,
my personal thing is with auctions. I never spend 10% or more of my budget on any quarterback. I won't spend 10% on a single quarterback. Will I do it on collectively for the position? Absolutely. But for one guy, I won't do it.
Yeah, I did to get my guy. I really like Jared Goff, so I spent $112.
Went for like 65 for us or something like that.
Oh, dude, he kept going up. I kept having outbid to get him. It was ridiculous.
I went for 70. I had him at like 58, and then it went above 60, and I was like, well, nope, that's it. Now I'm just going to wait until Sam Darnold comes up, and I got Darnold for 40, which I actually value higher than Jared Goff anyway, so it worked.
How dare you? How dare you?
Hey.
I love Jared Goff. No, that's okay. I appreciate the comments.
Darnold was the guy that I had over Baker Mayfield last year. I liked him more as a prospect. Baker showed me that
his decision making is always the thing that I question with Darnold. Like, he's got all the talent, but sometimes he makes some really stupid decisions.
See, but what I look at when I see Sam Darnold, as far as prospects go, the guy he reminds me of is a much better Matthew Stafford. That's literally what I see. I see, as far as like his tape when Stafford was in, when you compare their actual like college tape, he reminds me of Matthew Stafford, except he can actually throw the ball into a really, really tight window if he needs to.
Yeah,
and that's the thing I like about Darnold.
I can't argue that. I feel like Stafford has a stronger arm, but I feel like Stafford also makes better decisions with the ball. But then looking at the last few years, that's not really accurate. So
not when Stafford came out of school.
No.
He came out of
school.
Other
than the Cleveland game, he was hurt the first 3 years of his career.
Yeah, that's true.
So Rick, I got to jump back up in the comments. I like Rick's comment here. So Rick says, I went through both the 96ers, the 48, and the 52 team league from last year. Depth did not win.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's the point he keeps making that I feel like helps me feel better about my poor decision making and spending half my budget on two guys. I got the top two guys at their position, but so he said that. So Chris spent $160 on Watson, and then Rick says after that, I got 3 starters for $173, and he feels good about it. So I'm guessing that's 3 quarterbacks for $173.
Probably, yeah.
At what point did Darnold have good talent outside of the last 5 to 6 games of his first year starting at USC? Chris also says, love Darnold. Wish he waited for quarterback. Love Watson though because he runs. Yeah. Well, the unfortunate thing with running quarterbacks. Oh, some
Oh,
delightful cookware you have there.
I bet.
The thing that I struggle with running quarterbacks is you hit them enough, they stop running, and that
Yeah,
becomes
they do.
you hit them and
Guards
hurt
are
them,
great.
they're not moving.
Right. No,
Uh,
so the thing about Darnold was his tape when he was at USC was one of these sort of situations where we knew what he was as a top recruit in the country. We knew his strengths, his weaknesses going to USC. There were glimpses, but with he was in a Lane Kiffin offense for a little bit, which was I don't blame some of the decisions in his early years on him. Between you have to remind yourself he's still 18, 19 years old trying to learn these offenses. I saw a lot of promise. Like you said, the bad decision making was there. It improved over the years, though, and that was one of the things that I really trust about him. He's still not, he's not going to do the Brady where there's not going to be really any bad passes. He's going to chuck a couple that he shouldn't chuck. But with that being said, he's also, when put in pressure, and pressure in the pocket has been really good. And he actually played better last year than I expected him to. I thought he was going to take longer to develop. Same thing with Josh Allen, where anyone who knows me last year was saying Josh Allen is the guy that I was getting everywhere in rookie drafts. Just
yeah,
like this
I
year,
targeted him. Yep.
Drew Lock is my guy, where I'm getting in every super flex draft. And Allen, I thought needed to sit like the first 8, probably 10 weeks even, and he looked really good as for what he had, which was no offensive line and Zay Jones.
Right.
He looked as good as he could have. They gave him some options. They actually gave him what seems to be an NFL caliber offensive line now, which is a good thing. Um, so, you know, both of the young guys in the AFC East, those two, I expect a big step forward from. Not so much from Josh Rosen, but that we can get into a Rosen discussion another day. I was not a Rosen guy. I still don't believe in him, especially with the mess that Miami is. Even if they got the right coach, they went defensive minded, where you have a young quarterback and Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it's a weird situation, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And I already didn't like Josh Rosen as a prospect. So this has kind of been that sort of situation this year where I go, okay, lovely. So I don't really need to focus on what's going on with Josh Rosen. Doesn't really affect me anymore because I'm probably not going to touch him. And Miami's going to still be Miami. So there's that.
Yeah, I think Miami was smart to make the deal because what does it hurt them? If they don't like him, go get a quarterback next year. Or finish filling out that team.
Right, and there's 3 guys next year that would have easily been first overall this year.
Which they could potentially have that first overall pick, depending on what that looks like. I mean, unless you believe the videos that they're showing of Ryan Fitzpatrick's no look pass to Devontae Parker. I mean, it seems like a
I
big deal.
see. I don't know what to do with Devontae Parker. I don't know what to do with him. I want to give up on him every year. I
I
want to
have.
give. I completely understand if you have. And I was gonna get him in the 96 until he got to like $13, and I'm like, that's too expensive of a lottery ticket for like $8 though. For $8, I'll throw him on that team. I got Kenny Stills for like $5. I will throw Devontae Parker on my squad for like $8 or $9 and just see what happens. But
Yeah, when it comes to Miami, I mean, none of their wide receivers really excite me. Like, if I'm getting a wide receiver on their team, it's
I'll,
probably Albert Wilson.
yeah,
You know,
that's the guy that I'm gonna target here. In the next couple minutes.
yeah. They don't really have anybody terribly excited. exciting. Preston Williams seems to be a guy that people are hyping a little bit. I don't know enough about him. I mean, what the little bit I have looked at him, it looks like he's kind of a flashy guy. Like sometimes you'll see his highlights look sweet, and then he looks like trash. So they don't really have anybody that excites me.
Yeah, see, he's what I like to say. He has the Hakeem Butler syndrome, except significantly worse. Where Butler will look fantastic through a lot of his tape if you're not looking at the 14 drops that he had. And then you see the 14 blatant drops that he had, and then you start to go, maybe there's a reason that he went in the 4th round this year. Maybe there's a reason why everyone who thought that he was going to go to Pittsburgh in the 1st round didn't go there. Because he has, like, his tape is so hard to judge because Hakeem Butler looks gorgeous most of the time. And then there's those very specific drops have eaten away at my psyche. Like that, it's one of those things where, like, some people were saying the same thing with Mike Williams a couple years back. They're like, well, he had a couple drops. Like, he had 4 drops that were bad. This is more than a dozen that are egregious. I'm not talking about bad.
And if you like Hakeem Butler, Rick's got the guys that you need to go after next that are probably still on MFL's player list. Justin Hunter and Dorial Green Beckham.
Exactly. He is. He's a very similar player. And I didn't expect much out of Dorial Green Beckham. I did get wrong on Justin Hunter. That was one I was wrong on. I thought Hunter was going to be a thing.
I never owned any shares of either. Like they were trash. I was never really excited about either enough that I would spend what people were buying them for. I'm like, ugh.
Oh yeah, no, I never owned either of them at like around rookie.
I think Justin Hunter was in the back end of the 1st round if I remember, and I think DGB was early 2nd. I wasn't touching either of them. I could be wrong on that. Maybe DGB was 1st and Justin Hunter was 2nd. I
think DGB was probably 1st and Hunter was 2nd. Yeah,
that's what it was.
I think I got one Hunter share in like mid-2nd, and that was it though. Like every other, it was the only time that he fell to a point where I was okay putting, a dart throw on him, and that's as soon as you hit the mid-2nd round in most drafts. It's other than 2020. The 2020 draft is going to be nice. That's one that I'm very, very excited for, especially if we get all the top underclassmen wide receivers come out. I'm really excited.
Well, I think the thing that's really going to determine those drafts and what those look like is the CBA. I think that's going to have effect on all of the different situations that are going on. I mean, that's why you're seeing guys like Slay and Harrison in Detroit sit out because they don't really have any guaranteed money coming in the rest of their deals. And I think you're going to see that trickle down to college too. I think that until that's determined, I think you're going to have. So I don't really know what to make. So next year's draft, I'm definitely trying to make sure I have picks in because I know what we're going to get for the most part. The year after, I'm like, I don't really know what we're going to get. I mean, I can say the senior class is nice, but
see, I like the 2021 class too. I next year's class, although people are talking about it like it is the best class in years, I think it's starting to get overhyped. And it's hard to get there because I really do like next year's class. And there are absolutely a couple of guys that could be studs at the next level. I think the reason that class is starting to get a little bit too much hype as far as valuing 2020 picks go is because of, how lackluster this year's draft was. And I think people are really looking forward to next year, and they're overvaluing even the fact it probably is the best draft that we've had in years. I think the reason that those picks, a back end of the first, round pick for 2020, I saw someone trade like the 105 this year for what's going to be about like the 109 next year.
Wow.
Right. And that's the sort of thing. I've seen that in a couple different spots, and I'm like, see, that's to the point where, even if these people are doing a lot of, work on that 2020 class, that's still really risky.
Yeah, that's a lot of that's a lot of hoping, and I wouldn't do that.
No, me neither. And that's the thing is that next year's tight end class is pretty weak. The running back depth is a lot better than this year, but that's not saying anything. Um, and I like the wide receiver class of next year significantly more than this year, but it's also a lot more top heavy than this year. This year, there was a lot of guys that people valued that end up going in the fourth, fifth, sixth round. So, rookie drafts this year, no rookie draft was going to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was going to be different, which I like the fact that can happen because it's going to encourage even more trades usually because you have no idea what's going to go on. I saw Hollywood Brown go 103 in a couple leagues. Okay, yeah, that was the same reaction I saw when I saw that.
Thank
That was my
you.
reaction. I was like, wow,
Thank you
really?
for doing that so that I can get the guy I
Exactly.
want.
Wow.
So Michael's got a question. How many QBs do you like to roster? I have Watson and Wentz. So Michael's in our 96er. I would say Watson solid. Wentz is solid, but injury prone. You definitely have to at least get another quarterback or even two to make sure that you've got a nice starting combination and a bye week filler. So in your case, I would probably shoot for 4 quarterbacks if that's even
Yeah.
possible, depending on what the pricing is. Normally, I do 3 for sure, and then if I get a deal on a fourth, I'll stash them, kind of thing.
So for me personally, I like to target four. I target 4 to 5. It's one of those things. I like to get 4 quarterbacks or quarterback situations that I feel good about, and then add 1 or 2 of the young guys that were taken in the fourth, fifth round.
Jarrett Stidhams of the world.
Jarrett Stidham's, Will Greer, Ryan Finley, those guys,
Dear
those schmucks.
God, Ryan Finley's name's been brought up way too much today. I'm feeling kind of gross.
He's not good, but he's gonna get starting reps. That's the point. I don't like the player. I don't want it to happen. But from everything that I've heard from my Bengals fans, like everyone that I know that's diehard, they said they're like, no, 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 none of us want it to happen. But he's going to be the starter for 2 years minimum. I'm like, no, he's not. They're like, no, no, no. Listen, he's going to be the starter for at least 2 years. Okay, like I've heard this from like 6 different people that are like that live in the area. They're like, look, none of us want it to happen. No one's looking forward to this. Nothing's going to actually get changed. Zach Taylor's going to get fired because of this. But Ryan Finley will be a starter for 2 years.
When you say Ryan Finley's name, it makes me think of the brother from Will Ferrell's brother from Step Brothers. I want to punch him
Yeah,
directly in his face.
yeah, Adam Scott's character.
Yeah, Adam
Yeah,
Scott's character,
yep.
because he wants
Oh,
to
yeah.
make his nut.
Absolutely. Just got to do what you got to do.
It's the Catalina wine mixer. Oh gosh, Ryan Finley. That's just, and I won't own shares of him because I hate him.
I I'm not happy to say this, okay? I want everyone to understand this. I don't
You're
feel
smiling. You can't smile when you say it. You can't be like,
fine.
oh, dude, Ryan Finley. You got to get him.
I do not feel comfortable saying anything positive about Ryan Finley. I If I were a Bengals fan, I might boycott the team knowing that Ryan Finley will be the starting quarterback. But it is inevitable. It's going to happen. From everything that I have read and heard, it is an inevitable situation.
Rick
And
says the Bengals are drafting a QB high next year.
I I hope so. I hope for their sake. I really hope so. I don't think it's possible. I think the earliest that they could draft someone is if Ryan Finley is as bad as I expect him to be, and they will be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes in 2021.
Ooh, Trevor Lawrence. He's going to make a lot of fantasy people happy because, man, that dude's good. Question is he old enough to come out next year?
No, 2021.
That was a 2021. I'm about to say, I thought he wasn't. He still would need another year. Yeah.
Yep. No, he was a freshman last year.
Yeah. Man, oh, man. That was a man playing a boys game. And he was so
I know.
good.
Oh, I know.
All right, so do we got any more questions out here? I appreciate the chats have been live tonight. We got a lot of stuff going on. Oh,
Yeah, we do.
Michael said Hollywood went for 10. Yeah, Hollywood hasn't been going for much in the leagues that I've been seeing when it comes to auctions. Right around 10 to $20 is kind of the
Yeah, I was right in the middle,
sweet spot.
15.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Chris posted what he paid. So Chris Resendez said he paid 101 for Hill, 122 for Julio, 50 for Jarvis, 49 for Cup, 27 for Sutton, and 18 for Funches. That's actually really fairly solid value. I mean,
I like the Jarvis value a lot. I like the 54 for Jarvis.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, yeah, and then a 49 for Cup isn't bad either. I think those are some solid receivers for decent value.
Yeah,
How
I
many
would
first round
try
QBs are coming
Josh
out
Reynolds.
next year? Oh, this is a good one for you. How many first round QBs are coming out next year?
All right, so here we go. We have three basically guaranteed guys for next year. Herbert, Tua, and
From
Fromm are almost all complete locks, unless something horrible happens. Fromm's the only guy that could fall out of that first round, who is my favorite quarterback in that class. But there are concerns about uh, Fromm. So I'm gonna throw a name out there because we could see 4 to 5 guys go next year. Julian Love, I don't love the player, but he very well could end up being somehow sneak into that back half of the first. The guy who has, you know, you want to talk about, Jekyll and Hyde, has the ability to make any throw. Fantastic half of the game, and then will be, Blake Bortles esque the second half is Brian Lewerke. Lewerke
Michigan
could
State, gotta love them.
he could honestly become a first round prospect if he fixes that this year. I don't think it'll happen, but if he does, I could very easily see him go top 15.
Well, what about Jacob Eason? He's a guy that I kind of have higher on my. I like the talent, but Washington is a team that never really produces quarterbacks. I mean, the last one I can think of is Jake Locker, and he was brutal. You
Yeah,
know,
right. I mean,
he
the
seems to
thing
have the
about
talent though.
the thing about Eason is we haven't really seen that much of him. So even if he does declare, you're really going to only have like one full season worth of tape on him, which I mean hypothetically, yeah, he can declare. I think he's one of those guys that'll be in discussions for the second QB in 2021 though, only because of his transfers and not really getting too much time behind center.
Yeah.
There's a couple guys that are like that I do like the talent, and I technically they're in the 2020 class, but I'd be really surprised if they declare. Um, Eason's one of those guys. He's gonna, like I said, I think he might be my third ranked QB in the 2021 class off the top of my head. I think.
Yeah, see, it doesn't matter quarterback wise. It doesn't matter to me. The guy I have to get next year, just because of his name alone, is Jerry Judy. That dude's name cracks me up. Um,
He's he's gonna be 101 in non superflex,
you
probably.
think so? I think he's definitely a top five. Um, but he
Oh,
makes me
he's.
think of Brooklyn 99. What's his name? The
Oh, I
keyboardist.
know.
What is it?
Yeah,
The guy that keeps stealing cars. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
his
Yeah.
name's like
I know exactly what
something
you mean.
Judy too. Doug Judy or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I would just pulled up my 2020 list of kind of the guys that I really like, and next year's going to
Yep.
be exciting for me because I get to try to go after guys that I like that haven't really produced at Michigan, like Tariq Black and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Those are guys that I'll want to stash because I love their ability, but hate the fact that Tariq Black hasn't stayed healthy, and
Yeah.
Donovan Peoples-Jones is a better returner than receiver. It seems like.
So I actually I think that Tariq Black is probably going to be a third round NFL prospect.
If he was
He,
healthy, he'd be way higher, but dude keeps getting hurt. He's
uh,
got he's got he's got Julio Jones's feet. They're always getting broken.
I mean he's one of those guys that has a high ceiling. It's kind of like same thing like we talked about him earlier, or at least I mentioned him, Laviska Shenault. Shenault is a
Yeah,
really
Chenault I
interesting
have on my list.
because he has the possibility of being a top 15 wide receiver. The weird thing is, he reminds me of this weird combination of Curtis Samuel and Josh Doxson as prospects. Um, and I don't know how to really value him right now because they don't put him on the outside. Or before he got hurt, they didn't have him that much on the outside, so he's going to be, seems like a bigger slot receiver, but doesn't. They play him out of the Wildcat, and it's just his tape evaluation. I tried to get through it, and I do have an evaluation on him right now. but his actual full evaluation has been really difficult just because I don't know exactly what it is that the team's going to plan on using him for. And until I know what team takes him and how he'll fit into that system, I don't know how to really value the player.
Sure.
It's a weird situation because he can do everything. He reminds me a little bit of Odell coming out of LSU. And Jerry Jeudy reminds me, as far as his cuts and fluidity between movements, reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
And both of these guys have the ability to be absolute superstars. And I think Judy's almost bust proof, depending on what you're expecting. Um,
He feels like Debo to me. Just doesn't matter where he goes, he's going to be good.
Well, if you're expecting him to be a top 10 wide receiver, then he can definitely bust. If you're expecting a guy who his floor is like a top 24 wide receiver, I think he's like bust proof. That's kind of, whenever it is that I'm taking a wide receiver early in a draft,
Yeah.
I take the guy that I look, all right, do I think that he'll ever be less than like a low wide receiver too? Do I really think that that's, a serious, problem with the player? And if it is, that's why I never drafted any Devontae Parker. Is that I loved the prospect, but I look at him, same with Hakeem Butler, and I go, but he could be an absolute nothing in about 2 seasons from now. So I'll take him in the second round if he's sitting there, but never in the first.
Well,
And that's
but next year there's a lot of receivers that I think have potential. I mean, we didn't even mention T. Higgins, C.D. Lamb, or even Henry Ruggs. I mean, those are some guys that if they come out next year, they're all guys that I think have good potential. They play well, wide receiver wise. They're all fairly good athletes. I want to see more from all three of those guys this year. Like, I think there's still some lacking on all three of them, but those are guys that I have kind of on my list. And I'm like, I'm interested in.
C.D. Lamb is my second favorite wide receiver in this class.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of problems with Lamb right now. The only thing is he has the drops problem.
Well,
but
I want to see more from his game. I want to see him take it to the next level this year.
That's fair. I'm not as
Chris says we need to shut up about the next draft. We're giving away our secrets already. I do got to hit Rick's question. Rick posed a good question that I keep forgetting about. All right, so what teams do we think will need to spend a top 10 pick on a QB? I'm assuming he's thinking NFL this next upcoming year because of the bevy of quarterbacks coming out.
Yes.
I could easily see. I could make a case for the Lions if they wind up getting out from under Stafford because he has an out in his contract after this year. I could make a case for a team like, Tom Brady retires this year. New England can't really roll out what they've
Jarrett
got.
Stidham's going to be a stud now.
No, Jarrett Stidham is not the next Jimmy G. I could make a case that they would use a first-round pick. They won't have a top 10 pick, but...
No. Could they be the team that takes Brian Lewerke at the back half of round 1? That would not surprise me.
Because they love Michigan State quarterbacks.
Right.
Because they draft every Michigan State quarterback. Definitely think of teams like Cincinnati, Miami. You could see. Well, yeah, Rick. I know the Pats aren't drafting in the top 10, but I'm trying to narrow the list down. Teams in the first round that could be taking a quarterback, and then move it to the next group. What do you think, Colin?
Let me throw a team out there that I probably will get flack for in the chat. If Tennessee has another bad season, if they disappoint and they go 6-10 this year, don't be surprised if Marcus Mariota, where there is an out in his contract at the end of 2019, don't be surprised if they have a really underwhelming season. If Tennessee is that sort of team that takes the third guy. If Fromm falls down there, that Fromm might end up, at 9-10th overall landing in Tennessee. I don't think they'll spend a top 5 pick, but if he kind of falls to them in that 8 through 11 range, if the team, takes a major step backwards, that would not surprise me at all.
Michael, as the Lions slap on the Rotoheat team, if Stafford doesn't take them to the playoffs this year, I think Detroit needs to seriously consider, is he really their franchise guy? I'm not saying that I don't like Stafford. So Michael posted in here, I'm crazy or I'm nuts if I think the Lions are getting rid of Stafford. Our team over the course of history has been way too loyal to players.
Yeah.
So he'll probably still be here, but they need to consider. I mean, if Patricia and Bob Quinn want to keep their jobs, they're going to need to start considering, is Stafford going to win them anything?
Right. Which is a solid thing to ask.
Yeah. So so that's really where it is. Obviously,
I still think Miami's picking first next year, and I think Miami is taking Tua. I still think that's going to be.
It's tough for me because I like Fromm, Herbert, and Tua, and I don't know which one I really like more than the others. I kind of all put them in the same category of guys that I'm like, I think they're all going to be solid, and I think they're all going to be relevant. What's that?
Fromm, Tua, Herbert for me.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think I'm Herbert from Tua. Like, I just don't like Tua for some reason. I like, but the way that he throws his motion, just kind of every time I watch him, I'm like, looks like he's trying too hard. Like, maybe he should just relax and throw the ball.
Yeah, but I understand, and that was one of those things. I used to kind of have that feeling, and I think how he played in the national championship game, where he actually had a really bad half, actually, surprisingly enough. Raised where he was in my ranks, because seeing he had a really bad first half and then came back and played better in the second half. We hadn't really seen him really ever have to fight adversity in a game before that. Now, granted, they didn't come back and win. It is what it is, but we hadn't really seen an Alabama team have to try to put some grit together and actually try and pull it back together. He had been in control of every single game. It wasn't anything that was, shocking, and he actually had a couple good comeback drives, after a bad first half. And, it showed me something that I hadn't seen from him yet, which helps. Herbert, I like. I just have a lot of issues with Justin Herbert as a player. And there's a lot of things I keep seeing. A lot of people think he's the best quarterback in the class. And, there's a lot of things that most people see and like that I can't understand. Billy Eilish, I don't get it. I've tried. There's a lot of things that I can't understand it, and that's Herbert first quarterback is one of those things.
Well, and that's the tough thing for me is that I don't probably this time at the end of the college season my mind will be a little different, but for me it feels like Fromm's probably the best quarterback, but for some reason, Herbert just keeps the one that I keep coming back to. I'm like, there's just something about the way that he plays. Not only the way that I've watched him read the field, make decisions. I'm like, I feel like he's got it pretty well together. But then there's some times where I also go, maybe it is just Fromm. But Tua, ultimately in my mind, Tua is just not the best of the three. But I don't put him far below it. Like I feel like all three of them are going to be successful at the next level.
No, I agree. The thing about Fromm that I like, I don't know if he has the highest ceiling in this class. I think he has the highest floor though in that class, which is that's part of what I like. Like if I'm gonna be, if I'm an NFL GM, I don't want to swing for the fences with a guy. I think that Tua reminds me a lot like Jake Locker, and I don't want to swing for the fences. No, I'm just saying it's a prospect, not once Locker hit Tennessee. But
he couldn't have hit Tennessee if he wanted to. What are you talking about? He overthrew Tennessee.
He did. No, but his tape when he was at Washington and the tape that Tua has, it's not that different. It was a more run-heavy offense. There's a lot of options. They're both very successful with it. Locker was less successful. But he reminds me of Tua a little bit. And, it's hard. I understand that Tua is going to probably be the most marketable of those quarterbacks in the class. It's kind of like how Kyler is the most marketable in this, class. He has the best, standout highlight plays. He has the best YouTube clips. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the guy that everyone's watching. It's the same reason that, everyone, all the big major publications were saying that the number one wide receiver in this class is DK Metcalf because his highlight plays were impressive.
Because he posts good pictures on Instagram.
Right, because Hakeem Butler is the second best wide receiver in this class because he has a great highlight video. Mecole Hardman is the third best because he has a great situation. Like that's the sort of stuff that I've been hearing for so long about multiple guys, and I think that Tua will be the first taken. I don't think he should be because his floor is out of the league. I don't see a situation where unless Fromm has massive, massive injury problems that come out of nowhere, I think the worst that he really is going to be is Sam Bradford. Like when Sam Bradford was healthy is what I'm saying. Like the year or two where he was a top 15, 16 quarterback in the NFL with the Rams. Then he had a couple okay seasons with the Eagles. I think at worst, Fromm will be an average NFL quarterback. At best, he'll be like a top 6 or 7 guy. I don't think he'll ever be that number one, quarterback in the league. But I'm not expecting that. I have realistic expectations for this player
Right.
that he's not going to throw into double coverage.
Whoa,
He's not.
whoa. We got Resendez throwing some hot takes in the chat here.
Right. What
So
is?
so he just said, I'm trying to read through the. Okay, so when we're talking about DK, he says DK is the top pick. Look at that beast. Wilson loves Metcalf. Guy's going to be a 1,212 guy in his first year. He also said he loves us, so I know his decision making is fairly solid. I mean, he knows talent when he sees it, but I'm
Okay,
questioning
all right.
1,212 in the first year.
Yeah, that's something.
That's a hot take, but I feel like somebody needs to bet Chris that's not going to happen because I feel like his over under is probably 700-800 yards in my mind. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was thinking like 650.
ooh, that's even lower than me. Whoa, Chris
I
says
mean,
he guarantees it.
he guarantees 12 and 12.
That's what he's saying. I'm more like 700-800 yards and probably 6 to 8 touchdowns. Only
I'm
because
thinking
I think they're going to rely on the run.
655.
You said
Right, I'm
650
thinking
and 5?
650 and 5. I think Lockett's going to do a little bit better. I mean, I do still think that they're going to use their tight ends. I think Disley and Vanett are going to be involved more than the previous year.
Well,
Carson
who did
and
they?
Penny are both
I'm
going to
about
be
to say, didn't they
involved.
just trade for a tight end? I feel like they just went and got somebody too. The kid from didn't they get some from New England? What's his name?
Oh, Jacob Hollister. Don't
Yeah.
he's not going to be on the roster. It's fine.
No.
Don't worry about
Okay.
it.
All right.
No, no. I had hope for Hollister for years. If anyone knows to just give up on Jacob Hollister, it's this man right here.
So Chris goes even above and beyond the bold take. What do you think? Lockett going to get 1,615? Well, no, I don't think Lockett's going to get. See, they don't throw that much. Like,
I think Lockett's getting like 906, which is why I think DK is going to get like 650 and 5. I think Vanett's going to get like 405, and Disley's going to get 350 and 3, something like that. Like
yeah,
I,
the tight ends that are cannibalize each other because none of them are really truly a stud. So it's like they're just gonna,
I think they're both going to get close to 403, 404, a little bit under probably on each.
Well, and you get and in Seattle, you got to remember there's going to be some other guys that you're going to be feeding that ball to. The offensive line is still not great, so those running backs are going to get passes. Chris
Penny.
Carson will catch some. Penny will get some. What's that?
Right. I said Penny's going to get receptions.
Yeah.
I think they're going to kind of run that offense similar to how Chicago has. I think, or at least the rushing attack. I think they're going to kind of run it similar to the 2017, 2018 Howard and Cohen. I think that's what Seattle's hoping for. And then when Carson's contract is up, I believe at the end of 2019, they're going to make Penny the guy in 2020.
Well,
I believe that's their plan.
and the tough thing is their offensive line is still not great.
Right.
And you can't forget. Rick brings up a good point. You can't forget David Moore. David Moore's got a rapport with. I mean, and he's got some value.
Right. He'll probably have 503, something of that sort. I mean, I don't think that they have any guys on Seattle personally that end up hitting 1,000 yards.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see that. I could make the case that Lockett will get like the closest. It'll be like 950.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I still think that Lockett gets under 1,000 though. I don't think that Wilson's going to be throwing for 4,500 yards.
Well, and Rick makes a good point. Seattle will be playing from behind, but it's hard for me to see a situation where they have that go-to receiver. Like Lockett's as close as they're going to get, but I feel like they're going to have to dump the ball short a lot. So that's really tight ends, running backs,
Hmm.
probably their slot receiver,
So David Moore,
yeah, David
or
Moore.
slot. All right.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle's not one of those teams where I'm excited about them, but they need to fix that offensive line. I think they'll be
Yes.
better than they were last year, but that's still light years from where they need to be. Uh, yeah,
We'll see. And I gotta say, I don't know about how often Seattle's going to be playing from behind. I think they're going to be playing in a lot of one possession games, which is going to make it a lot of a run heavy offense, like we already said. I don't think they're going to be going for this prolific offense, especially with the money that they just gave Russell Wilson. I don't think they're going to be wanting him, throwing the ball 40 times a game and wearing out that arm because he's locked up for years now.
well, but the interesting thing is, and Rick brought up a little bit earlier in chat, is Seattle's defense is weak. I mean, they've got a lot of young guys.
But usually they coach it up about halfway through the year. Seattle of the past couple seasons, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year, it's brutal. It's hard to watch, and
Yeah,
then usually they find it's almost like there's this switch that turns them into at least an adequate defense to like an above average defense around like week 5, week 6.
and I mean, I know it's not the boom anymore. They aren't the Legion of Boom, but they've brought a lot of young players in, and I know from an
Yeah.
IDP perspective, their safeties have some value going forward.
Yep.
So they have some pieces that if they could, like you said, coach them up, the
Mhm.
defense could become moderately
Right.
useful.
An average to slightly above average defense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so it's hard for me to make the case that Wilson gets more than 3,500 yards. Somewhere around there feels about right for him, but
Right.
with that, it's 3,500 yards, probably 20 to 25 touchdowns. I mean, it's and the way that they spread the ball around. It's hard for me to see a guy being really, really successful.
Right. I know for me personally, I think my projection for Wilson is like 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns to like 9 picks and like 450 yards on the ground with like 3 touchdowns, I want to say, something of that sort. Like
Yeah,
I have him with total yardage being close to 3,800, but like 400 of that is rushing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
That's
can get
that's
behind that, because that's kind of where I'm
right,
thinking. I'm thinking 3,500 and something in the
right.
20 to 25 range. Seattle's just one of those teams that I mean, they're going to give you decent depth on your fantasy team, but I'm not, like people. I've seen people looking at Lockett to try to be their kind of wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1, and it's like I just can't. I can't make that case, and I don't see the value in that.
Yeah, I
So for
agree.
whoever brought up Seattle, you've done taken many, 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 many minutes of our time talking about Seattle. Oh, and I just lost out on. Oh, I
If it
got
makes you feel like I was the one who brought up DK Metcalf originally, and that's how we got sidetracked.
you've done this. This is your
I
this is
have.
your doing.
It's usually my doing. Whenever we
So
usually call it.
let's see here. I'm gonna pump through these comments. I appreciate you guys keeping this chat lively. This is some good stuff you guys have been pumping out.
It is.
Dennis McLaughlin. DK is interesting, but is more of a prospect than people talk about. He was
Mhm.
not the best actual football player on his team. Well, that's true. True story. Okay, so
Right, because Knox was there.
bringing up the Knox.
Gotta.
He is the complete antithesis of Mecole Hardman. Mecole Hardman we can't like at all, and Dawson
Right.
Knox we can't get enough of.
For his value, I can't. I have him almost everywhere just because of the value on him.
Yeah, it's very easy to make a case for him.
Oh yeah.
He's not a wide receiver 1, but great 3 on a team that will give what? Yeah, yeah. I mean, Lockett's kind of your wide receiver 3, and some weeks will be your wide receiver 2. So yeah, I think that's a good spot for Lockett. All right, so we're hitting the 2-hour mark. Are there any questions? I feel like we need to do our sales pitches and wrap this thing up.
Absolutely.
Paul says best player was the left tackle, but he's a total wuss. Oh boy, the guy the Panthers took in the second round. That's Little, Greg Little.
Yeah.
Which is why he's perfect for the Panthers because they don't like their left tackles to be anything solid. So he fits in
No,
pretty
they
good.
really don't. Greg Little is one of those guys that going into the year was projected to be a top 5 pick, and then
Once people saw him play, they're like, "Oh, maybe not."
right. Yeah, then he played, and they were like, "Wow, he would have been an amazing left tackle, like Hall of Fame level left tackle back in the '80s, where they're not really doing a lot of pulls. If he's just has to stand there and try to maul someone, he's going to be great. But when you have to then move your feet, that's where he loses a lot of credit. The not just standing there part is what's going to hurt Little at the next level."
Right. All right. So Michael asks, any auction tip strategy once you get to $30? Yeah. Sit back and wait because there's no way you're getting anybody. That's what I seem to be getting right now. I've got $41 and I can't win a guy.
Yeah. See, what I would say is that
Dawson Knox,
any player that Dawson Knox, obviously. I would say one of the things that you should do is any player that you're actually interested in, if they're not going to be going like dirt cheap, don't even send a bid out. Like try and keep them as low as possible. And I understand the idea of driving up the prices on other people, but you don't want to get stuck with a guy for $6 where you really didn't have the $6 to spend, which I see most people that happens to. Like, I mean, Devin Funchess went in like I think in my division for $6. Like, because I had him at 5, and then once he hit 6, I have the money. I just don't want to, get Devin Funchess.
No way.
And no,
no way. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
yeah, I just don't want him. It's one of those. It was a deal. Not interested. And I think that's one of those things that when you don't have a lot of money left in an auction, you have to really refrain yourself from the players that you're interested in, like mildly, to the guys that you actually really want to target for less than $5.
Doug Kearns is getting Bryce Love, and I don't like it. I'm trying to get him, but I don't. The system won't. Oh, the system won't let me. All the guys that I want to get, the sneaky guys I want to get, I can't seem to be getting. Because I just don't have any money.
Matheson's a decent one to throw out there.
Matheson, he's already at $13. I ain't getting him.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got Riley Ridley right now at $5. That's kind of the guy that I'm like. I like to get him, because he's a stash for me. But
see, this is the point where I like to nominate a lot of these players that I know are $5 or $6 players that I am not going to bid more than a single dollar on. And if I do get them for $1, I'm okay with getting them for $1. That's not really going to help me that much. I mean, in this,
Whiteside's out here, but I can't get him. Son of a...
How much is he at for you guys?
He's at $10 right now.
Oh, that bothers me.
But I can't bid $11 because I won't be allowed to fill my roster if I do that. I don't care if I can fill my roster. I'll go into free agency. Give me the players I want.
Yeah, no, that was one that killed me as this was going on. Like he got up to like 30, and I was like, oh, I can't do the 30. Oh. He and Paris both went for like 32, or when we started, they were at like 32. And I was like, well, I just missed out on them by like one player, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I feel like the back half of my roster is really going to be, the future plumbers of the world that I'm gonna have to flip here come as soon as the draft's over, because I'm like, every guy that I want to get, I just can't seem to get, so I'm gonna get stuck with a bunch of schmoes.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with having Theo Riddick on your team. He can be your mascot.
I don't want Theo Riddick on my team.
Everyone wants Theo Riddick.
I might be able to put a bid in on Zay Jones.
Well, for less than
couldn't do that either.
No.
Stupid.
Wow.
I hate not having any money.
Yeah.
Being a poor person sucks. I'll tell you.
That must be difficult for you right now, because I know as soon as we're done here, I got to nominate someone, because unless something shocking happened while we were recording. I just won Jamison Crowder.
Well, look at you balling out with Jamison Crowder as your
Hey,
wide receiver. What,
he's
10?
like my wide receiver 7. I'm
Oh, is it?
okay with him there. Like I could debate using him. It doesn't matter though. I have 8 top 30 32 running backs on my team anyway, so I'm fine.
I didn't have to pay 387 for Barkley, Chris. I got him for 295. I saved myself. All that extra
Yeah,
money I could blow on nobody. I don't know. I don't have much money left.
essentially, yeah.
All right. So question. Okay. So Michael had just asked what guys can you get at like the $30 range. Once you do that, what I'm experiencing is once you get under $50, you just sit and wait because everybody's going to outbid you.
Yes.
I haven't won an auction since I think either late Sunday night or early Monday morning. So basically sat the rest of this week
Wow.
telling my division to stop bidding on the guys that I'm bidding on, and getting nothing nothing out of the deal. So you try to find value, but at $30 and if you have half or more of your roster to fill, take flyers on guys that have good situation potential. So getting into a position where they're playing early so that you can flip them. I mean, that would be my take. But
Josh Oliver would be a $1 player. That's why I'm like that's the sort of guy that
Josh
you want to
Oliver.
look for.
Yep. Because it's
I'm not
super flex and tight end premium. Look for tight ends and quarterbacks.
right. I don't know if anyone's taken Kalen Balaj yet because I know
In our
I'd
league,
be
he went for I think he just went for right around $20.
really 20 for
Yeah,
Balaj.
let me see here. I know he just got one. So let's see here. He went for.
I'm curious because he's like a $4 player to me.
I won't tell the guy that won him. Let's see. I thought he was in the $20 range. So let me see.
That's insane to me.
Uh,
I mean, if I can get Ito Smith for $10, there's no reason that Kalen Balaj should go for 30 or for $20.
maybe he's still up for bid. Is he still up for bid? Let's see here.
Maybe he is. Who knows?
I couldn't find him in the results. I swore I just saw him being bidded on. Let me see here. MFL needs to get their auction stuff together because it feels like
Yes, they do.
the way they handle
Yeah.
auctions is like rough.
It is. It's an experience. That's for sure.
Not a good one. It's kind of weak.
No, no, no. Oh, yeah. It is what it is. It's what we have this year.
It is, and the funny thing is, I mean, their site's not bad for the most part. Oh yeah, $12. He went for 12, not 20.
Okay,
He went for
okay.
12.
That's still more than I would pay personally, but that's not as egregious as I thought it was.
Yeah, so I would. Yeah, once you guys get that low, do you nominate people you don't actually want, hoping others will pay a few bucks? Yeah, I mean that.
Maybe.
Jeff, that's kind of the approach I took at the beginning too. I was hoping to bid high on guys that I liked, and if I won them, great. If somebody outbid me, then great because they just spent a bunch of their money to get them, and that's how I landed Barkley and Hopkins. So that's a great idea if it actually works.
Right.
Otherwise, then in this case, you're then getting a bunch of scrubs that you don't like because nobody bid on them. So outthinking the other owners is a good idea, but sometimes it doesn't always work. So you have to be careful. Definitely put out guys that you are okay accepting if you win them, because I've seen guys putting out here. We've got some dollar players going because nobody wants them. Blaine Gabbert, somebody put him up there for $1. I wouldn't pay $1 for him. I wouldn't pay 50 cents for him. I wouldn't have nominated him because I wouldn't pay anything for him. CJ Anderson, I'm not interested in owning him. I have no value on my team. I don't even care about him.
For $1, with some of the players that are going to be on these rosters, for a $1 CJ Anderson, I might be interested in that.
$2 Darren Waller, Oakland tight end. I wouldn't spend $2 on him.
See, I that's actually a guy that I've been looking at to potentially spend up to like $5 on.
Oh,
I like the player in Oakland.
I
Like Gruden
apologize
loves
that everybody
tight
that's
end.
watching this show, it's going off the rails now. 2 hours in, and now we're starting to talk crazy. I feel like
Gruden
everyone's.
throwing to tight ends. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying.
I don't even know how to respond other than to say that I'm glad that you're back, and I don't even know what to say. I appreciate you joining me because you're making crazy statements that
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't make
Waller is going to be the starter, though. Yeah, Wallen probably will be the starter, but
right.
I wouldn't spend. I wouldn't know. I know this is tight end premium. I'm just not comfortable spend. Derek Carr is going to have to force every throw to Antonio Brown. Otherwise, Antonio Brown is literally going to punch him in the stomach. Like I don't know. If there's enough mouths to feed. Like there's not enough balls to go around.
But here's the thing: Oakland doesn't really have a third wide receiver right now. They have Tyrell and
They
they
got
have.
Hunter Renfro. What do you mean they don't got a third wide receiver? The darling of the draft.
They don't have a third wide receiver, which is why Waller will end up getting like 45 catches for probably like 380 yards and 2 to 3 touchdowns this year. And then maybe it doesn't grow into anything. Maybe it grows into, he's going to be the sort of guy that'll get, 700 yards and 6 touchdowns a year. I'm not expecting him to be a superstar. Could he end up having I'm trying to think what's the sort of a better Jesse James sort of career? Yeah, I think so.
Well, see, and maybe because I was burned. Like I went for Waller when he went to Baltimore,
Yeah,
and they moved him to the tight end. And I was like, oh, well, this could be sneaky. The guy's a pretty good athlete, and Baltimore is a tight end factory. Well, he sucked. And after that, I was like, I hate you, Darren Waller. Never again. So that's probably why I'm not spending a dollar on
that's
him.
fair. That's fair. I'm not.
So we actually have a legitimate question that isn't talking about bonehead tight ends. All right,
Okay.
so Bryce Frazier posts, who wins this trade? Zeke and Flacco for Green, Fournette, and Haskins. I think Zeke is the biggest player in that. So I would go with the Zeke side, even though Flacco does nothing for me. Because Green is older, Fournette is injury prone, and Haskins is a question mark. Zeke's depending on what you need on your team, but I would go Zeke.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have to say that it would depend on my roster. This is one of those very roster dependent moves. Um, I would tend to lean towards the Haskins side. But that's only because I really think Flacco is only going to start 5 or 6 games this year. Uh, man, I lean Haskins, but I don't feel strongly either way.
when it comes to a deal like that, I tend to lean on where's the superstar player at, unless there's a guy that I get super excited about. So I would probably go Zeke side, but
Yeah,
I'm immediately trying to do something with Flacco. If I'm not the Drew Lock owner, I'm going to the Drew Lock owner with Flacco, going, hey, what do you give me for his handcuff? And he may not be handcuffed for long, but
right, exactly.
but I can't blame either side. See, AJ Green is a guy that I've been getting out from this offseason. So that's kind of why I'm away from that. Like I don't have many rosters anymore. So Bryce responds, this makes my backs Kamara, Connor, Zeke, and Jacobs. It does weaken my QB and wide receiver area, but I'm not big on Green at all. Well, see, with Kamara and Connor and Jacobs already on your roster, I don't know that I
I
need
don't, I don't
Zeke.
think I'd make that deal.
Yeah, I don't know that I need Zeke at that point.
Yeah,
You could get if you're but see I don't know that you may. So Bryce also says also I think I could get a bigger return for Zeke. Yes, you get a bigger return for Zeke, but why would you do that anyway? Like why are you trading to get a guy so you could try to trade him?
yeah. So for me, if you're doing that deal, I'm not a James Conner guy. I'd flip Conner for certain. That would be my idea. If I'm taking that deal and I'm pairing Zeke with Kamara on like a weekly basis, then Connor's the guy that if there's a Connor lover in your league, that's who I'm going to and seeing what you can get for him. Um, I don't. I think if I were you with what you have right now, though, I would personally stand pat. But if you're convinced to go for the Zeke deal, then you don't need to have all of those running backs. I would try to sell one of them, and I think Connor is the one who's the most volatile of all of your options.
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Probably. Probably.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. What else do we got? I can't. I think I may flip Connor, but I want him to get that hot start and his value to be as high as possible. Yeah, I think that's probably a smarter way to go. But I think Connor's name cachet is so big that I don't know if it
He's
makes that big a difference right now.
Yeah, he's usually like a top 8 guy across the board in most ranks. Um, Top 8 running back, I should
Yeah,
specify.
absolutely. So Rick then
Uh,
comments, because you can get a better wide receiver than Green, I would do it and flip one of the backs.
yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I tend to not lean into the category where I trade guys to get a guy to trade him immediately. Like if I'm trading for somebody, maybe that's how I treat the add-on pieces of the deal. Like if there's other pieces I can get in the deal, then I could maybe then try to flip. But if I'm trading guys that are probably starters on my team, I want to either try to get younger replacements or yeah, that's a harder deal for me. But I can't knock you from trading a guy. Now I would probably lean if you get Zeke, try to trade Connor because Zeke is
Exactly.
top 3 running back, and Connor I just think is not going to survive very long.
Yeah, I think he's a replacement level player. Just he was on, a fairly effective offense. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to be as effective this year anyway.
It's going to be
Plus,
hard. It's going to be hard for them.
and like I said, I don't think that Connor is actually an elite running back.
No.
So for me, that's kind of an easy, sort of swap. I still don't love the of all the pieces that it bothers me that you'd be giving up the most. With your wide receivers not as deep. I'm not a huge AJ Green guy, but that's giving up a good piece for a wide receiving core that's not that deep.
He's a good piece, but he's on the back end of the career. He gets hurt all the time. I mean,
Well,
the
but the
name
thing is,
still holds value.
right? But the thing is, with that roster, that's a like contending roster. That's the sort of team that AJ Green makes sense to stay on. I don't think you're going to get enough of a point bump between Fournette and Green
Yeah,
and then Haskins to be able to really justify the Zeke move.
yeah,
Unless you're getting like if you're getting a decent pick back, if this is like, Zeke Flacco in a first for your Hall and a second round pick, now, I might be more swayed to go Zeke, but if it's just the players, I'm probably going to be holding.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think I'd be okay. I can work the narrative in my mind to flip a running back to get a better quality wide receiver. Then makes your team exponentially better because you have Zeke and a better receiver. So
Right.
you can get it. You
Like if
Rick says you can get back a better wide receiver than Green, but you love Finley. LMAO. we're gonna have to get we're
he's
gonna have to
not
get
good, he's not good, but that value for what is going to be a starting quarterback
on
is insane right now.
all right, Rick. So on Colin's first 1,000 Rotoheat T-shirt on the back, it needs to say Ryan Finley's biggest fan
You know what?
right across the back.
You know what? I'll still wear it. I still.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'll have to add like an epilogue to it. Like I'll have to just like write in Sharpie underneath, but it's fine. I'll make it work.
You're gonna explain how he'll have value for a couple of years until they get a better
Exactly.
replacement. And oh,
So
that's good stuff.
he'll never be good, but he will be starting.
That's the story of his life. He's probably the nicest guy in the world. Probably a good
Well,
dude.
sure, he's probably an absolute great guy. And I don't mean to be eviscerating him every single time we bring him up. He's just not an NFL level quarterback. He's definitely a solid college quarterback, not NFL level though. Just like, there's still people out there that think that Jake Bentley, the South Carolina guy, is going to take the next step. Jake Bentley is not an NFL level quarterback.
He is
If
an
you,
NFL level number 3 quarterback.
I don't even know. He's the practice squad backup guy. He really is. That's what I remember.
He's the water boy.
Yeah, he is.
Our boy Chris. I was offered Zeke in the 2020 first for Watson, Julio, and Sutton. No, I love Cortland Sutton. I wouldn't be trading Cortland Sutton that easy. Um,
How early is that first round pick going to be?
yeah, Chris. I get it's a super flex tight end premium, but that doesn't necessarily matter in this case. I mean, you have one quarterback, I guess, in there. What's that 2020 first look like, Chris?
Yeah, is that like a mid to early pick, or is that like a guaranteed late pick? Because if that's a mid to early pick, I might take that deal. But I don't love Sutton the way that you do.
Sutton is glorious.
I don't
I,
I don't.
I dig him. I think he's going to take a next step this year, and I think it's only going to get better from there.
We'll see.
Hey, yeah, Sutton that easy. Rick,
It's
I don't think Rick agrees with me either. I must be the Sutton truth around the team.
probably.
How about Barkley and a 2020 first for? Well, yeah, I would do that deal in a heartbeat. So he said, how about Barkley and a 2020 first for Watson, Julio, and Mixon?
I would do that, but I don't think that the Barkley owner will do
And he
that.
says it's mid to early.
Yeah,
He's
then
the guy who spent 90% of his budget on 5 guys. You're not trading with me, are you?
I don't know. Is he?
He's not. I've got 8 guys. I don't have 9 guys.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. That's
I've got
true.
even less.
Yep. Yes, you do.
Oh, all right.
I got
Yeah,
31 as of right now, I believe.
that's a tough one for me. So I like Barkley a lot, like $295 a lot. So Barkley in the 2020 first is a really good deal for me. But I also like Mixon a lot. I don't like Julio as much anymore. I mean, I think he's kind of much closer than the end than the beginning, and I like Watson a lot. So Barkley is head and shoulders better than Mixon. The 2020 first will probably get you. It'll probably get you a stud quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one. I think
I think I'm taking the 2020 first.
Yeah, I
and
think I gotta
whether
go
it's
Barkley
Zeke
in the
or
first.
Barkley
Yeah.
side. Yeah.
Yeah, probably that side of it. Although if you're doing Zeke in the 2020 first, I wouldn't give up Mixon in that deal. I would keep Mixon and give Sutton, as much as I don't like that idea, because I like Sutton. But
See, for me, if you're in a super flex league, if you're gonna get a top 8, like if you can project what should be a top 8 pick, I will take that every time, because I have a very definitive top 8 players already that I want, and then a next tier down. If you can get any of those top 8 players with Zeke or Barkley, then yes, it's kind of a lock for me at that point.
yeah. So let's see here. Yeah. So, yeah, mix inside. Anytime you can dump. Okay. So I think that answers your question, Chris. And that,
Yep.
I mean those are I mean they're all good players in the deal. I mean, but this is dynasty football, so I try to look at the long term as well as what you're getting in your return now.
Right.
So and it's hard if this is in the 96 teamer, you don't really know. Rick, the things that Rick keeps mentioning about the top heavy teams really being able to be successful, I can't say yes or no because this is only my second year of auctions. So when he says those types of things, I'm like, okay, well, my team that kind of proved it because my team in his 12 team was not top heavy and I didn't win anything. This team I have in this division is a little more top heavy. So do I see some success from it? So
if I remember correctly, I made it to the finals in the 48 with my depth squad and didn't win it. I know I didn't win my division. If I remember correctly, I made it to the finals and lost by a decent amount, though. I'll be honest. I had a bad week that week.
Happens to the best of us. I can remember.
Exactly.
I can remember all those years back when I would, I mean, back in the old days of fantasy football, when Brian Westbrook was my only running back, and he would carry me to Super Bowls, but then I'd never actually win the Super Bowl because he'd never play Week 17 because Philly would want him to rest because he's 5 foot and 100 pounds. But
Oh yeah,
so
and thought the playing on Week 17 was a good idea too.
well, this my home and this is the struggle. I'm going to go on the soapbox a little bit and go a different direction. My home dynasty league is so in the dark ages. Like, I finally got them to do taxi squads like 3-4 years ago. They don't do any real special scoring, and I've started switching over owners because I'm kind of a co-commish. I've started switching over owners, trying to help them move into the next generation. I've started bringing up Devi and IDP and Superflex and and people are like, they're like, I don't know if I want to change this league. It's the emotionally connected league. I'm like, guys, it sucks now though. It's not fun. Like, it's stale and it's old and and all that. So,
Yep.
Rick says, Colin, I spent 55% on 2 guys in that and should have won our division.
Yeah, he should have, but he didn't.
There you go, Rick. The mic has officially been dropped.
Neither of us won. So if it makes him feel any better, neither of us won that division.
I didn't win either. I didn't win nothing. I didn't win nothing last year. And
yeah, I did my Zeke in depth. I didn't win. He steamrolled through most of the regular season and didn't make it to the finals. I know I didn't win our division, but I'm really confident that I made it to the finals.
The funny thing is the Rotoheat leagues seem to be the bane of my existence. Like, maybe it's because I give away all my strategies on these shows, but I never really win anything. Like, I'm just like, yeah, I'm here for a good time, I guess.
Yeah, well,
I need to stop telling people what I like to do.
Exactly. You got to just start throwing out a couple just random, disposable moments, being like, oh, this
Ryan Finley's going to be sweet.
Really
Y'all should go get him early.
My proxy bid on Ryan Finley is $42.
$100. Andy Dalton is garbage. Which is true.
I dare you. I dare you to bid more than that on Ryan Finley. I dare you.
Luckily enough, MFL would save me from myself in that point because, I can't bid more than $3 right now.
Well, then you bid $3 on the next starting quarterback and said,
oh, too many weird things happen weeks 14 through 16. Playoff success is to an extent overrated. Yeah, Paul, you're right. I mean, once you get to the playoffs, it's luck, man. Who knows? Anything's possible. What got you there may not get you to the championship. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So, all right. Well, I'm seeing the viewership dip now. So only the diehards are sticking around. So we better wrap this thing up because none of these other Rotoheat podcasts can fly this long. Sully, I'm challenging you. I want 2.5 hours of the 2 cents. Yeah. I want you to just go all night long. And Kevin,
I want exactly 2.5 hours of sense. That's what I want. I want to just hear. I want everything to make sense for 2.5 hours straight.
Everything you got, Sully. If you're watching this, which you're not at this point.
Absolutely.
Oh man. Oh, Dynasty side. Damian Williams weeks 15 through 16 was luck, not skill. Well, yeah, Paul. Now at this point, you're very honest and very true. That is very true.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna do the sales pitch so we can wrap this up. But I'm laying the gauntlet down, Heat Seekers. Let's see you do some of this action on Monday night. For those of you that haven't gotten a chance, you better check out Bridger and Rick and the guys doing the Monday night show, 8 o'clock. It's good stuff. I don't normally get to catch it live because 8 o'clock isn't a good time for me, but I do watch it after the fact, and it's very good. Kevin with the Blockhead show is awesome. It's a good pod. Check it out. It's on SoundCloud. Sully's 2 cents is going worldwide. I've been seeing it on. I think I listened to it on Podbean, but it was on SoundCloud. So, check out all the stuff that's going on. Obviously, you'll see me and Colin here Thursday nights chatting. We are at the point where we're probably going to start getting into a little bit more Devy chat in the next few weeks because there's not a lot left to talk about. You've heard us say how much we hate Mecole Hardman and love Dawson Knox and are torn on Ryan Finley. We're torn on Ryan Finley. But we got to start talking the Devies. We talked a little Devy tonight because, well, we've been on here forever, so we've had plenty of time to talk Devy too. But make sure you keep it locked in to here. Keep it locked into the Facebook. In the Facebook group, we're well over 1,000 people. You guys rock. Keep it up. I'm seeing and approving invites every day of people trying to join the community. So invite everybody. It's a great community full of awesome dudes that are we rib each other, but it's all in good fun. We enjoy everything we're doing. And Paul says in giant letters, John Emery. Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
That's fine. It doesn't burn me. I was just very surprised when anyone took John Emery that early. Mm-hmm. I thought I could wait a little bit longer. I didn't. It's fine. I have no regrets of my picks 2 through 4.
And I've seen the tattoo. It says no regrets, so he definitely doesn't have any regrets.
Exactly. I have no regrets.
Yeah.
Not a single regret.
Chef Robertson said we need to spend the next few months talking about how great Devontae Parker will be.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do we should make a 10-minute segment every single week.
Sully's 2 cents. I challenge you to do a Devontae Parker podcast because I don't want to touch that. That may be the only pass he catches this year, which is that no-look pass that they recorded. Oh, Rick Butts is dropping some hot fire right here. Just wait for what I have coming.
Okay.
I'm on the edge of my seat, literally and metaphorically. I want to know what our fearless leader has coming.
All right.
So
find out.
Ooh, he says big news coming soon. Big news. This isn't Devontae Parker big. This is bigger than Devontae Parker. This is bigger than Ryan Finley.
Hey, there is nothing bigger than Devontae Parker news. Because
if there is any Devontae Parker news, it's big.
Absolutely.
So keep it here to Facebook, twitch.tv/Rotoheat. Discord, Rick posts the Discord chat link in our Facebook group about every few days. It's out there. You can find Colin and I at our Twitter feed. I try to keep things lively on there. I try to keep it interesting. Rotoheat.com. Keep up to date with our content. Our guys are getting better about putting up stuff daily. We're getting some good articles out there. I'm sure you'll see some stuff coming up about the drafts. We got NBA content, NHL. Both of them are now getting close to their drafts every minute. So we've got a lot of stuff going on that we'll be having those articles coming. We're making the site better every day. And I'll be honest, and the Discord chat is now, or the Discord group is now posted in our chat here. So if you're watching, if you've gotten to this point in the show, not only are you the coolest people ever because you hung with us this long, you can now join the Discord chat for free. I won't even charge you.
That's a deal.
That's a big deal right there. That's cheaper than Darren Waller. So that's a big deal.
That is actually cheaper than Darren Waller, which that's saying something.
That's saying something. He is the dollar menu buy right there.
He really is.
So thank you guys for hanging out with us, having fun with us tonight, joking with us, talking fantasy football and all that. And Colin, any final words? Anything you want to add before I kick everybody out?
Not quite. I know you and I have been talking. There is another project in the works as of right now, but that's all I'm gonna say. But there will be another in the works. I know Rick has some news and I have some news that needs to be ironed out first, but it's currently in the works.
I'm living my big news. Like I'm not going. The Roundtable is my baby, so I guess we'll just kind of leave it at that, and I will just support the rest of the guys in any way I can, because this show is a blast, and I don't know that I could do it better if I hosted another show. Like that just wouldn't work for me. I don't think.
I don't know if the thing is like you wouldn't get sidetracked with someone else. That's so it. Whether that's better or worse, I don't know, but you probably wouldn't get sidetracked the same way.
Hanging out with myself the last few weeks, I was getting pretty sidetracked. One conversation would twist us off into a weird world, so it's just
that's true. I hear those.
As I'm big into movies, I'm big into music, I'm big into football, and anything could throw me off, and I will go down a rabbit hole. So
absolutely.
Man, Rick's all about the big news, so I'm excited, and you guys should be too, because right now Rotoheat is a growing community, and it's probably the best fantasy football community out there. I'm just gonna say it. I'm dropping this. Oh, and Paul wants to know if this is an XFL style Rotoheat league. Dear God, no. unless he hate needs to come back.
No. There's a very specific league that he's talking about. I wish, but I'm not going to do that with 48 people. That is way too many spreadsheets. So no, it is not another league being commissioned by Colin. That's not something that's in the works. That's a 15-person Devi, deep IDP, Superflex tight end premium. No, we're not doing that. 12 teams a division. Oh no.
That's heavy.
Maybe next year, but heavy. Not this year.
Yeah. We'll leave the big leagues up to our big man Rick with his 96 teamer that we're having fun with now.
Exactly.
So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out, Colin. It was a pleasure having you back. I'm glad things are moving in the right direction, and we'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good.